Welcome back to the channel. This is Trendy Storm and you are watching first part of What If Naruto Was the Missing Prince of Whirlpool. If you enjoy this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Now wasting no time, let's start the story.
One of the biggest mansions in the Hidden Leaf village had its halls swept by an enraged man. Hiashi Hyuga was that man like all Hyuga. Hiashi was proud to be a part of the powerful Hyuga clan. He was a man who valued strength, honor, prestige, and power. As the leader of the most powerful and influential clan in Leaf Village, Hiashi was a man who had learned to regulate his emotions since he was a young boy. However, servants and other clan members practically sprinted out of his way, so that wasn't the case right now since the man exuded bloodlust and none of them wanted to agitate him for fear of becoming the object of that wrath. They were unable to flee quickly enough. When Hiashi finally arrived at his room, he was greeted by a scene that instantly made him feel better while his oldest daughter Hinata played with the baby's tiny hands and made amusing noises for her. His wife Hana sat in a chair with his newborn daughter Hanabi. Hiashi was unable to contain his smile at what he saw. His wife grinned affectionately as she gazed up at him. As soon as she saw her husband's expression, she realized something was amiss. "Hinata dear, could you go to the kitchen and ask them to bring some tea and cookies for us?" she asked. Glancing at Hinata, Hinata grinned and hurried off to fulfill her mother's request. "What's wrong?" Hana asked her husband after Hinata had left. Knowing that he couldn't hide anything from his wife, Hiashi simply said, "I just came from a meeting with the clan council." Hana's expression darkened at the news. She was aware that if he was upset, the meeting had gone horribly wrong. She questioned, what did they want? With a stony expression and obvious anger in his eyes, Hiashi gazed at her. He knew that the silence would not last long. "The council has deemed Hinata unfit to be clan heiress. They have demanded that I name Hanabi as my heir and place the cagebird seal on Hinata and place her in the branch family." He was correct. "What?" yelled Hana furiously. "How dare they? Hinata is the firstborn and rightful heir to the clan. Hanabi is only 2 months old. How can they ask this?" Hiashi felt sorry. It was the same question he had asked himself. They say that Hinata is not suitable to be clan heir and should be replaced. They see Hinata's kind heart and gentle nature as weakness. They want to take over Hanabi's training when she is older, as well as to find and arrange a husband for Hinata. Hiashi was unable to carry on because he was killed out. "They can't do that. Only we can arrange a marriage for her," she responded. His voice was angry as he said, "I made sure to remind them. They said that if we are unable to find someone worthy of the clan, they will find someone for us. They want to rob my eldest child of her birthright and turn my youngest into an emotionless puppet. We can't let them do that," she pleaded with him. "We won't," he declared. "We can't change their decision on Hinata. If we try to fight it, I know they will do everything they can to pit them against each other." Hana was aware that he was correct. It was exactly what the old fools would do, even though she didn't like it. At least Hana knew that much was true when she said, "But we can keep them from corrupting Hanabi. The Hyuga doctrine states that as her father I get to train her. The clan doctrine cannot be violated, not even by the council. If nothing else, it was what had held the clan together for so long. For Hinata, all we can do is try to find someone that will be a good husband for her," he said with a sad tone. Hana made her way to the area of the room where the family photos were stored. The latest one made her smile pitifully. He said, "I hear that Sume Inuzuka has been looking to arrange a marriage for her son. I guess we could talk to her, in an attempt to figure out how he could support his daughter." It was the photo taken on the day Hanabi was born. Hana was not listening intently. She continued to gaze at her family photos. At that moment, she noticed another image. It was her Genin team's photo. The image featured a smiling Makoto Uchiha on her left and a flushed Hana in the center. Kushina Uzumaki, her best friend, was on her right, her arm wrapped around her shoulder, a smile that split her face. When her friend passed away, Hana was devastated and missed her terribly. The thought struck her as she was looking at the photo of her friend who had vanished. She felt as though she was receiving a message from an old friend indeed. Hana was aware of what needed to be done and would see to it that it was done, regardless of the consequences. "Hana, I know this is not what we wanted, but we have no other choice," he replied. "Oh, but we do," said Hana, smiling as she turned to face her husband. Hiashi didn't like his wife's expression. "What are you talking about?" he asked, unsure if he wanted to hear the response. Knowing that look meant trouble, his spouse uttered a single word. "Kushina." Hiashi was perplexed. He inquired, "Your old teammate? What about her?" His wife's constant smiles made him realize what she was up to. He uttered the word, "No," in shock. "You can't possibly be thinking of." She said resolutely, "Yes, I can. I have been prevented from fulfilling my promise to Kushina for far too long. The Fire Council will never allow it. We tried to adopt him and they rejected us. Like everyone else who tried arranging a marriage with him will be impossible," he stated. I have no intention of asking for their permission, she replied. Hiashi appeared even more perplexed. But he's a civilian, that means that only the civilian council can make decisions on his welfare, he said, attempting to reason with his wife. She stated, not if he's taken back to his family, with a serious tone. Hiashi felt the strange grip of fear on his heart, and his eyes widened as he finally realized what she was actually planning. We can't. It's treason. If the Hokage found out, he won't be able to do anything once the Uzumaki get involved, she yelled. You think they will be able to protect us from being executed for treason? They will probably declare war on the Leaf if they find out we lied to them. He snapped back at her. He was aware that the Hokage would not overlook this. To conceal the boy's ancestry, the third had endured a great deal. He and Hana only knew because Hana had been present to assist her sensei in giving birth to Kushina's child. Since disclosing the child's ancestry would expose him to danger from his father's enemies, the Hokage had instructed them not to do so. He told everyone that both mother and child died during labor, lying to the village and the boy's family, and claimed that the only way to protect the child was to keep it safe under threat of death. The few people who knew the truth were sworn to secrecy. They won't. I know Kushina's family. They will help us. We just have to be careful how we let them know, she added. Hiashi wasn't entirely certain. He was aware of the Uzumaki clan's notoriously short fuse. Are you sure? What if they share Kushina's idea of kill first and ask questions if someone is lucky enough to be left alive? Asked the man. With a sorrowful grin, Hana returned her attention to the photo. No, her father and brother are much more level-headed. I spent my summers from the academy with them, remember? I can explain things to the Daimyo. It will work out. I know it, she replied. Hiashi considered his wife's words. It would be extremely risky, but it might work. I will get a squad of branch members to escort you, he said. No, we must do this in secret. I will go, and I will only take Hinata with me, she replied quietly. With a tone of authority, he stated, you can't, it would draw too much attention, and I will not let my wife and daughter go unprotected. Hana understood her husband's argument. Very well, but I will only take 2 escorts. Any more will make it difficult to travel unnoticed, and we can't let the Hokage know until the Uzumaki get involved. Hiashi gave a nod. I will tell Ko and Hideki to be ready by morning. What do I tell the elders if they ask where you went? Hana paused to reflect. Tell them I'm taking Hinata on vacation to Moon Country. They won't think anything of it, she replied. Hiashi was aware of her correctness. She would be perceived by the elders as spoiling Hinata. Very well then, everything will be ready for you in the morning, he replied. He then departed to let the guards know to prepare for the journey. The elders and the Council of Fire would be in for a major surprise if everything went according to plan. Sitting up in the big, cozy bed, a sleepy Hinata blinked her eyes. In an attempt to fully awaken, she used her small hands to rub her eyes. She soon became aware of the room's faint swaying, the definite creaking of the wood, and the smell of the salty air as she was doing this. It served as a reminder that she was in the cabin she and her mother shared on the ship they had boarded, not her room back home. Hinata had gone east with her mother and their 2 guards, arriving at a port town on the outskirts of the Land of Fire. It's been 3 days since they left on the ship. According to her mother, they would arrive at the Land of Whirlpools today. Just before someone entered, Hinata heard a knock on the door. One of their guards, Ko, was there. Hinata-sama, I see you're awake. Hana-sama is waiting on the top deck. You should get dressed. I will wait for you outside and escort you to her. He went out after Hinata thanked him. Ko led Hinata topside. After she was dressed, Hinata inhaled deeply of the chilly morning air. Hearing the waves crashing against the ship's side and tasting the saltiness of the sea in her mouth, Hinata discovered her mother in the ship's bow, thoughtfully gazing into the horizon to let Hana know she was there. Hinata approached her mother and took her hand. Hana smiled affectionately down at her daughter. Good morning, honey. Did you sleep well? Yes, I did. As her mother had been doing, Hinata briefly gazed out to sea. Mommy, we're going to Whirlpool Country, right? She asked. Turning back to her mother, Hana gave her a nod. Yes, we are. It won't be long now. We're almost there. Hearing that made Hinata happy. For a 5-year-old, spending so much time in a ship with nothing to do was boring. They wouldn't let her do anything. Mommy, you have been to Whirlpool Country before, haven't you? Yes, honey. My best friend since I was a child was Kushina Uzumaki. Kushina was the oldest child of the Daimyo of the Land of Whirlpool. Because of this, she returned to Whirlpool Country every summer that we were in the academy. I was always invited to come with her. And because the Uzumaki clan is such an important family, I was always allowed to come. That struck Hinata as very pleasant. When she started the academy in a few years, she questioned whether she would have such a close friend. If your friend was the princess of Whirlpool, why was she in our village? Hana took a moment to think before responding. As a member of the Uzumaki clan, She was selected to come to our village in order to complete a task that only she could complete for the village and to fulfill the alliance between our village and her country. Her father only permitted this if she was permitted to spend a portion of the year back in Whirlpool country in order to continue her training as an Uzumaki. After we became friends, I accompanied her, so I have visited Whirlpool numerous times. Can you explain it to me? Since neither Ko nor Hideki had visited Whirlpool, Hana took a moment to consider what to say to her and saw that her guards had quietly approached, which she knew was because they were also interested. The land of Whirlpool is an island nation situated between the land of fire and the land of water. But what Whirlpool lacks in size, it more than makes up in wealth, Hana said, noticing the bewilderment on Hinata's face. You see, Whirlpool is rich in natural resources. Hana started to recall the many things she had learned about the country where her dear friend was born. It is rich in valuable metals and ores. Its forest is home to priceless medicinal plants that are unique to the area, and it boasts enormous quarries of rare stones and jewels. They are a resource-rich nation. Because of these factors, the country's geographic location is the other factor. Its location has significant strategic importance. Everyone knew of Whirlpool's enormous wealth and significance in the global economy and trading industry, so when she said, the location and how well the nation is managed is why Whirlpool is the premier trade and transport country in the continent, her guards nodded subtly. Hana-sama is right. Almost all nations, no matter how big or small, rely significantly on trade to maintain economic stability. Hana nodded in agreement before Hideki continued. Whirlpool has the most influence in trade, which gives their country political power and wealth few lands can hope to match. Hinata appeared to be about to interrupt her mother when she said, because of this, Whirlpool is one of the richest nations in the world. Hana signaled to her to wait with a raised hand, and after she was certain Hinata understood, she went on. The wealth and power have also made Whirlpool country a target to those who would take the wealth and resources of Whirlpool and make it their own. Warlords and daimyos built powerful armies with the express intent of subduing Whirlpool long before the ninja villages were even established. Hinata couldn't contain her curiosity any longer and asked her a question after everything that was tried failed miserably. Is there a ninja village in Whirlpool? Hana grinned at her impatient daughter. Hinata was Hyuga, and as such, she learned many things that other children did not, such as the fact that not all ninja came from a ninja village. Well, no, Whirlpool does not have a formal ninja village like we have at home, but they do have ninja. Whirlpool may not have many ninja, but it has one of the strongest militaries in the world. Hinata appeared somewhat perplexed by this, so her mother clarified, most of Whirlpool's military is made up of samurai. They specialize in the art of the sword. Since Hinata knew very little about samurai, she didn't react much to the statement, and Hana saw the uninterested looks from her guards. Samurai are uncommon in many countries, especially in countries like our own where we have many ninja. Hana witnessed another glance between her guards, who had never seen a samurai before and, like many others, thought ninja were far superior to samurai. Unfortunately, this has caused many people, ninja in particular, to seriously underestimate the strength that a trained samurai can possess. But, mommy, we can use chakra, so that's why ninjas are stronger? Hinata inquired. That is actually a widely held belief among ninja, Hinata. They think that a samurai poses little threat to an elite ninja from a formal ninja village because ninja use genjutsu and ninjutsu. Hideki had a smug expression on his face, but Ko was starting to think that his lady would say something that would change their minds. I don't want you to share this foolish belief, Hinata, so I will tell you about the samurai of Whirlpool, Ko said, drawing the three other members of the Hyuga clan's attention. In Whirlpool, like in nations like the Land of Iron, the art of the sword has become a way of life. Since a Hyuga who takes pride in his taijutsu views the use of any weapon as weakness, Hana could explain to her guards, Hideki in particular, that they wanted to comment on that but knew better than to do so. Whirlpool samurai serve not only as bodyguards to the royal family but as guardians to their entire country. The Guardian Corps is the moniker given to the Whirlpool samurai. As a result, Hinata found the moniker intriguing and was curious to learn more about them. Are they powerful, like a ninja in strength? She inquired. Much like Whirlpool's ninja, samurai attend an academy since they are young. They train to become samurai. The Hyuga who were listening had mixed reactions to the statement. A master samurai can be as strong, if not stronger, than any ninja, regardless of rank. Hinata was astounded that someone who was unable to use any jutsu could be so strong, and her guards appeared to be offended. Whoa, do the samurai lack a ninja village because they are so powerful? Hinata inquired. Yes, that is a contributing factor. The world's strongest samurai are Whirlpool samurai. As a result, Whirlpool has enough military might to do without a ninja village. I would prefer to show you the other reasons why a ninja village is not necessary until you see them for yourself. You simply cannot comprehend them. Do you recall that I mentioned that Whirlpool does have ninja, even though they might not have a ninja village? Hinata nodded and said, yes, I do. In fact, the royal family, the family that my friend Kushina was born into, is a ninja clan. Will you please tell me about them? An excited Hinata asked. Yes, I will. The Uzumaki clan is an ancient, noble, and powerful ninja clan, one of the first clans to learn the ninja arts from the Sage of Six Paths himself. Hana went on, ignoring the shocked expressions on the faces of her audience. Like other clans, our own included, the Uzumaki have areas of the ninja arts that they specialize in. They specialize in two arts in particular, and they have mastered these arts to a degree that is legendary. Hana was telling the truth throughout the elemental nations. The Uzumaki of Whirlpool are notorious anywhere that they are well known. One particular thought was expressed: you should never offend an Uzumaki. The first of the Uzumaki style of fighting is not surprising. They specialize in Kenjutsu, the ninja art of fighting with a sword. Hinata believed that was reasonable. It made sense that the ruling family would specialize in sword fighting after discovering how revered the sword was in Whirlpool. The Uzumaki clan practices the hidden Mitsurugi Ryu, Flying Heaven Honorable Sword style, also known as the Sonic Blade Sword style. The secrets of the hidden Mitsurugi are well guarded. Even after seeing it up close for several years, I can only tell you a few things about it. Hana had their undivided attention once more. Mastery of the style allow the Uzumaki to fight with superhuman reflexes. This allows them to be able to react instantly to almost any attack. Not only that, but they obtain a movement and action speed that renders most dojutsu like the Sharingan and our Byakugan useless. Both of her guards had scandalized expressions on their faces after hearing this statement. They thought their all-seeing eyes were just that, all-seeing. Like the majority of Hyuga, it was terrifying to consider that there was a fighting style that made their valuable bloodline useless. Lastly, like the Uchiha with their Sharingan, a master of the hidden Mitsurugi can interpret and anticipate the movements and attacks of their opponent during combat. The Uzumaki have no need to imitate their opponent's moves, but they are unable to do so. Although Kushina was not a hidden Mitsurugi prodigy like her younger brother, her mastery of the style earned her the title of Konoha's Red Death, and the enemies of the Leaf feared and knew her almost as much as their husband. The fourth Hokage Hana recalled Kushina wiping the floor with several Uchiha and Hyuga when she and Hana took their Chunin and Jonin exams. The Uzumaki clan's second, and possibly most terrifying, skill is their mastery of Fuinjutsu, or the art of sealing, which is arguably the most challenging ninja art. They are so skilled at it that no one ever imagined they could be. The Uzumaki are feared by their adversaries worldwide because of their proficiency in sealing. But can't everyone learn how to seal, mommy? Yes, they can. The fundamentals are simple enough to learn, just like any other ninja art. However, one can study Fuinjutsu for the rest of their life and never really master it, unlike the other ninja arts. You see, Hinata, the art of Fuinjutsu is similar to playing an instrument, painting, or sculpting. To become a true seal master, you almost have to be born with the talent. What is so frightening about the Uzumaki is that almost all of them have been born as natural seal masters for generations. Even the most intricate sealing methods can be mastered by the Uzumaki. Any kind of seal can be decoded, composed, altered, or even removed by them. Hinata considered what her mother had said because it was her dream to one day bring her family together, and she hated that her family was split in two, and that most of them were branded to be little more than slaves. The idea of releasing them from that fate was something that appealed to her, and appealed to her greatly. For the two Hyuga with a seal on their foreheads, thoughts of its possible removal could not help but pass by them. For one who was raised branded for a life of servitude, any thought of the possibility of freedom only happened in their dreams. Hana went on. One of the many reasons the Uzumaki are so feared in combat is their use of sealing. The Guardian Corps samurai are shielded from chakra-based attacks by unique seals on their armor, with seals in place of machines, similar to the snow ninja from the original Naruto film. All forms of genjutsu and ninjutsu are completely ineffective against the seals. Ko and Hideki realized that even their own fighting style would be ineffective against Whirlpool samurai, and that the ninja's advantage over samurai would be significantly diminished without the use of chakra. The Uzumaki are fortunate to rarely engage in combat despite their well-known temper. The Guardian Corps only engages in combat when stupid daimyos or cages attempt to seize Whirlpool's wealth. Don't worry, you'll see soon enough, Hana said, smiling at the bewildered and intrigued expressions on everyone's faces. To try to take Whirlpool is suicide. Its defenses are impenetrable. To fully understand how pointless it would be for anyone to attempt to invade Whirlpool, you must see for yourself. Hana turned to look at the horizon. She knew they would soon be there. It has been years since she has been to Whirlpool. She knew her mission would be difficult. The Uzumaki lost all love for the Leaf Village when Kushina died. If not for Kushina's father's decision to simply abolish the treaty with them as well as banning all Leaf Ninja from his land, instead of going to war, the village would have been destroyed. Kushina had been loved by all of the people of Whirlpool. When word reached them of her death, they blamed the Leaf Village, and they demanded blood. Kushina's younger brother had amassed Whirlpool's armies, and was preparing a fleet to have them march on the Leaf. The Leaf Village was only spared that fate because Kushina's father let go of his grief long enough to settle his son and his people down. From then on, not only were Leaf Ninja banned from the country and the treaty abolished, Whirlpool ceased all trading with Fire Country. The Fire Daimyo had been furious with the village for that. It had been a devastating economical blow to the nation since they now had to go through other lesser and more expensive ways to trade for just about everything they imported to the country. For the last 5 years the Fire Daimyo had been trying desperately to gain the Whirlpool's Daimyo's favor. He went as far as to offer one of his daughters for an arranged marriage with Kushina's brother. That offer was refused. Kushina's brother vowed never to marry again after his young wife and son were killed. Hana knew that coming to Whirlpool was dangerous. She hoped they could blend into the crowds and make to the people's palace before they were discovered. If she could get an audience with Kushina's father, she knew she could get him to listen and understand. It would not be easy, but Hana would do what she had to for her daughter's future. She would do it not only for Hinata but for her godson too. She had been denied his adoption by the civilian council, and the Hokage had ordered her to stay out of the boy's life. "It's too dangerous for him," the Hokage said. "You are too close to his mother. His parents' enemies would find him if they found out your connection to him." He said. Well, Hana would not let the village treat her godson like trash anymore. In Whirlpool he will be with family, and people that will love him, hopefully Hinata and he will be able to find happiness with each other. For that to happen she had to succeed in Whirlpool first. As Hana saw land appear in the horizon, she couldn't help but worry about what was soon to come. The Hyuga arrived at the port to the sound of the waves and the singing of seabirds, which was a sobering sight for the 3 members of the group who were there for the first time. Hearing about the volume of trade that Whirlpool did was one thing, but seeing the busiest port in the world firsthand was quite another. The port they left, Fire Country, was nothing like the one they had just arrived in, with ships of all shapes and sizes, flags from many countries, not just the elemental nations but also the southern and western continents. As Hana had anticipated, Luca Port is a center of international trade and commerce. There was plenty to see, though not much different from most port towns. There were supply shops and inns, offices for trading companies and bars, restaurants and stores of all kinds. If you wanted to buy or trade for anything, you could get it here. Hana, who had been much the same her first time, smiled as the Hyuga group walked through the port town and saw Hinata's little head whipping from side to side trying to see everything she could. "Don't worry honey," Hana said, feeling Hinata stiffen a little in her arms as they strolled through the town and noticed that she was staring at 2 Guardian Corps samurai. Big men with katanas strapped to their sides and armor resembling that of the first and second Hokages, who were patrolling the town. "We'll be all right, we're almost out of town." Hinata just gave her mother a tighter hug, her gaze never leaving the samurai. Hana knew that the easy part was over. Getting to Luca was not the issue. The difficult part would be what followed. She spoke to her group as they drove down a busy main road. "Listen, everybody, we will soon be making our way into Whirlpool country," she said, grabbing their attention. This caused some perplexed looks. "Mom, I believed we were in Whirlpool country," a perplexed Hinata inquired. "Well, we are technically, honey. The main island of Whirlpool country is up ahead, but Luca Island is a part of Whirlpool. Would it not have been simpler if we had gone directly to Hanasama, the main island?" Hideki inquired. Hana shook her head and pointed to the small hill they were about to cross, saying, "There is only one way in or out of the Whirlpool main island and it's just over that hill." When they reached the top, the group was left to stare in stunned silence at what they saw. The group was in front of the biggest bridge they had ever seen, so enormous that they couldn't even see the end of it because of the morning fog over the ocean. The ancient-looking bridge, which was about 250 feet above the water and had enormous stone pillars down the middle that extended all the way to the ocean floor, was about 100 feet wide and what appeared to be 9 to 10 miles long. It was an amazing feat of human ingenuity to have built this bridge, especially considering that it was constructed centuries ago. The Great Uzumaki Bridge is that when the first Uzumaki established Whirlpool country more than 500 years ago, they constructed it. "It's the only way to enter and exit the country," Hana stated. "It's really large," Hinata remarked. "Yes, it is. Additionally, it serves as one of Whirlpool's primary defenses against assaults since the bridge is the only entry point. Any invading force must launch their attack from it because there is only one potential attack point. Defending the nation is simple no matter how big the bridge is." it still restricts the number of adversaries that can breach Whirlpool's gates, allowing the Guardian Corps to fend them off. After that, the Hyuga group followed the many people and carriages that were going to enter from Whirlpool along the bridge. Halfway across the bridge, Hinata started to hear the sounds of rushing water, which were initially faint but grew louder as they went along the bridge. Hana stopped the group and led them to the edge of the bridge near the railing when the sound became loud enough that you had to speak up to be heard. Hana then pointed down towards the ocean, saying, "This, Hinata, is where Whirlpool Country gets its name." For the second time that day, her fellow Hyuga were stunned by the sight of a chain of massive whirlpools that encircled the entire area, likely the entire island. Hideki now understood why they couldn't go directly to the main island. If the whirlpools surrounded the island, then no water-based vessel could possibly get anywhere near the island. If they did, their vessel would be ripped to pieces as the whirlpools sucked it to the ocean floor. "Whoa, it's incredible," an excited Hinata exclaimed. "The whirlpools are the reason why this bridge is the only way in or out of this country." Ko said, "They don't look like a natural phenomenon." "Well, I don't know, I also thought they didn't look natural when we were younger." Kushina informed me that her clan's founder was responsible for the whirlpools, according to her family. "Really, mother? What did he do?" Kushina claimed that he used the power of his sword, the Hiashi, the Sword of Storms, one of the fabled elemental swords, to defend his people. In order to protect the island from invaders, he used the sword's power to create the whirlpools, but the sword was destroyed in the process. According to Kushina, the great blade was broken into 3 pieces by the strain of the power used to create the whirlpools. The Garden of Life, a hallowed location in the heart of the People's Palace, is where the sword's fragments are now resting. "Mom, have you seen the sword?" "I'm afraid not, honey. Only a member of the Uzumaki clan is allowed to enter the Garden of Life, which is a hallowed space. Despite the fact that I was a very close friend, I was never permitted to enter that sacred space." According to Kushina, the Uzumaki clan's founder is interred there. The sword lies on the grave of its master. Kushina claimed that it was the most exquisite location ever made by humans, and based on her description, I assume it is. Hinata remarked, "I wish I could see it one day." "We are nearly at the end of the bridge. The gates will be in front of us shortly, and the most hazardous portion of our mission will start. If everything goes well, you will someday." Hana thought, in order to avoid drawing attention to ourselves, we must blend in with the crowds. Am I correct in saying that you should never use chakra, not even for your Byakugan? "Why not, mommy?" The Guardian Corps seals, which Hinata possesses, are able to identify any chakra usage within Whirlpool's boundaries. We must avoid being found until we arrive at the People's Palace. "How are we going to pass the gate undetected?" asked Hideki. "It is impossible to stop everyone who enters due to the gate's size and the volume of people who pass through it each day. They won't give us a second glance if we enter with a big group of people. However, there will be a lot of samurai inside, so we must exercise caution. We are not wearing our headbands because we will need to move quickly and avoid doing anything that could draw attention to ourselves with them on. We couldn't go 100 feet in Whirlpool." As the Hyuga group traveled with a large group of merchants from Moon Country, they finally saw their destination. The high walls and large gates of Whirlpool. The city was surrounded by walls that were over 100 feet high, with defense towers on either side of the gate. The position was highly defendable, with samurai guarding the gates and archers walking along the walls. Some of the merchants in their group started chatting with one another as they went. "So, those are Whirlpool's renowned death gates, huh? That's them all right. So why, in any case, do they call them that?" "Because death is all you'll find if you attack him, that's why." "Oh, is that correct? Are you unaware? Those walls have never been entered by an army. The first great shinobi war is when they got their name. My grandfather told me that while the Leaf was engaged in combat with Cloud and Sand, the first Mizukage attempted to attack Whirlpool. I assume it didn't go smoothly." Before continuing, the merchant chuckled, saying, "The Mist Ninja were killed with almost 4,000 ninja of all ranks. They brought their full force. However, their numbers were at a disadvantage. Due to this bridge they had little choice but to perish with the Guardian Corps outside the gates and the archers pelting them with arrows from the walls." "The ninja used jutsu, didn't they?" "Oh, they must have tried. However, seals covering the gates and walls shield them from almost any ninjutsu." The Whirlpool Daimyo turned on the gate's strong defense seals after 4 days and significant losses on both sides. My grandfather was unaware of their true actions, but all of the Mist Ninjas were killed in the end. "All of them? Was there anyone who survived?" "Nope, they were killed down to the last man." "Gosh. Got that right. Mommy, why does that symbol look like the one in our villager?" Hinata asked, noticing that each of the enormous iron doors had a half of what appeared to be the symbol found on the ninja vests and in the leaf headbands as they passed the gate. In a whisper, Hinata asked, Because the Uzumaki were instrumental in the founding of our village. Even though we haven't had an alliance with Whirlpool for 5 years, we still wear it as a show of respect and solidarity. They had their first real glimpse of the city as they left the gate plaza, and like everything else they had seen of Whirlpool thus far, they were astonished to see a city bigger than any they had ever heard of. Larger than the capital of the fire or even the Earth country, which was renowned for its size. From where they were standing, they could see that multiple leaf villages would fit inside the boundaries of this one city. Welcome to Iandril, royal city of Whirlpool. The statement, "I have never heard of such a large city," was made by Hideki. Yes, sadly, a lot of Whirlpool's culture is overlooked because people are so preoccupied with their wealth and potential military. Iandril is the only big city in the nation, which accounts for its size. Whirlpool lacks any major cities, but it does have small towns and cities. "Oh, I see. Is that our objective?" Hideki asked, gesturing to the biggest and tallest building in the city center. Yes, the People's Place is located there. Both the Guardian Corps and the royal family call it home. It is a city inside another city. There are barracks, training grounds, and the Guardian Corps Academy. I can ask the Daimyo for a meeting if we can make it there. I'm confident he'll see me come on. As she guided her group through the city, Hana experienced a sense of nostalgia. She had spent much time with Kushina in this city. They had explored the area together and even pulled some practical jokes on some of the locals. She missed her friend and was reminded of her by being here. Although Hana and Makoto remained friends, their relationship was never as close as it was with Kushina. Hana had been inspired and encouraged to be her best self by Kushina. She assisted her in overcoming her shyness and developing into the woman she is now. The sister she never had was Kushina. Hana was surprised when Ko spoke to her because she had been absorbed in her thoughts about the past. "Hana-sama," he muttered urgently, "we are being followed." Wa was correct. Ko, even though it was subtle, they were being watched. The samurai could always see them, no matter where they were. The group walked a little faster, but they soon realized that they would always run into obstacles. Hana thought, no, we are so close, we can't be stopped now. She was considering their options when they were confined to a deserted square. They were surrounded by samurai on all sides after being herded there with their taijutsu stances prepared for battle. Ko and Hideki stood on either side of Hana and Hinata. One of the samurai said, "I suggest you stand down, Leaf Ninja, or we will be forced to subdue you." All of the samurai simultaneously unsheathed their swords. With an unspoken signal, a voice broke through the atmosphere just as it appeared that there would be inevitable bloodshed at the end of this. A chilly voice resounded from the darkness, "Samurai, stand down. We do not draw our blades on women and children." A man emerged from the shadows of an alley, concealing his face from the Leaf Ninja. As the samurai parted, he was not armored like the other samurai. Rather, he wore a long white coat with blue trim, a sophisticated red and white kimono, the Kenjutsu kanji on his back, and a single sword strapped to his hip. "As I was thinking about it, picture one of the coats the bleach captains wear," the man said. "You should not have come here," as he emerged from the darkness. He was a young man in his mid-20s, with a scar in the shape of an X on his left cheek and long, fiery red hair pulled back in a ponytail. Although he exuded an intimidating aura of power, what was really frightening was the raptor-like stare from his piercing violet eyes, which Kushina had also had. Kenshin Uzumaki, Kushina's younger brother, was the Guardian Corps' high commander. Only his father was higher ranked. A samurai moved forward and said something. "Kenshin-sama, we caught these Leaf Ninja trying to sneak into the city." "Yes, though I cannot imagine why they would even try, especially someone that knows our city so well." Hana was aware that this was her only opportunity. "I came to speak to your father." "My father has neither the need nor desire to speak to a Leaf Ninja. You came here for nothing." "You don't understand." "No," he firmly exclaimed. "It is you who doesn't understand. You are no longer welcome in this country. Be thankful that I don't use your trespassing as an excuse to attack your miserable village only because you have a child with you and what you once meant to my sister. Will you be allowed to leave in one piece?" He then turned to the samurai who had spoken before and replied, "Escort them to the port and make sure they are on the next ship out of here. I will not suffer their presence in our land." "Yes, sir. It's about Kushina." In an instant, Kenshin spun around and gave each Hyuga a death glare that sent a chill down their spine. He said, rolling in waves, "How dare you speak her name in front of me?" With killer intent, Hana yelled, "Get them out of my sight now." As the samurai advanced to seize them. As Hana had intended, the statement, "The spiral still lives among the leaves," stopped Kenshin cold no matter how far away they were. Kushina would always remind her younger brother that he would always have family who loved him as long as she lived and that the whirlpool spiral lived among the leaves. "You have gone too far, Hyuga. If this is a sick trick, I swear on my life and the lives of my family that I speak the truth. It is the reason that I came to speak to your father." Gazing into her eyes, Kenshin searched for signs of dishonesty. "Take them to my father. I will go ahead and let him know that you're coming," he said calmly. After what felt like an eternity, he turned and walked away without saying anything more. As they were led to the people's palace, Hana exhaled with relief. The samurai had led Hana and the Hyuga straight to the people's palace. She and Hinata immediately waited to be admitted in front of the throne room's doors in a separate room. Ko and Hideki were being held as guests. This is what they came to Whirlpool for. And this was it. Even though Hana was sure she could come to an agreement with Kushina's father, she was still quite anxious because so much was riding on this meeting's success. One of the samurai guards opened the door to the throne room and said, "The Daimyo will see you now." Holding hands tightly, Hana and Hinata entered together. Although Hinata was trying not to show it, she could tell she was afraid. Hinata was aware of how crucial it was to maintain appearances, particularly when significant political figures were around. As Hana entered the room she had spent so much time in as a child, she experienced a sense of déjà vu. Kushina's father sat at the end of the room, as he had in the past, on a silver and gold throne adorned with jewels and precious stones. This was the same throne that every Uzumaki daimyo had occupied since Whirlpool's inception at his father's side. Kenshin stood. Her father looked just as Hana remembered him, unlike her brother, who had changed significantly in the 5 years since Kushina's passing. Despite being only a few years older than the third Hokage, Genryusai Uzumaki appears to be an elderly man. He has the Uzumaki clan's characteristic violet eyes and a long, nearly waist-length white beard. Above his right eye, he has 2 perpendicular scars on his bald head that indicate severe combat in the past. Along with wearing a dark ocean blue kimono and a coat that resembled Kenshin's, he also has 2 long white eyebrows. The kanji for Fuinjutsu was printed on the back of Genryusai's long coat, which had a red trim. Kushina's husband, the 4th Hokage, had worn the same coat. Although the daimyo appeared elderly, he exuded an unmistakable aura of power, much like his son, see Captain Yamamoto from Bleach, but with Kushina's father in a blue kimono. The words, "It is an honor to once again be in your presence, Daimyo-sama," were spoken by Hana as she and Hinata knelt down. With a grandfatherly tone, Genryusai remarked, "It is good to see you in my home again, Hana-chan, despite my grievances with your village. It is good to be in your beautiful home once more. Yet you are not here for a visit, you said. We will get to why she is here, son. No need for rudeness." "But father, enough Kenshin. I know the anger you hold for the leaf, put it aside for now." "Yes father, now perhaps you can introduce this lovely young lady with you. This is my eldest daughter Hinata Hyuga. I recently gave birth to a second daughter named Hanabi Hyuga." Hinata bowed and remarked, "It is an honor to meet you, Daimyo-sama." "My, such polite young lady, it is nice to meet you too Hinata. You are the spitting image of your mother at your age," he said in a way that made Hinata blush. "Father, we have waited long enough." The daimyo let out a sigh. "Fine, why don't you let young Hinata go and have a snack while we discuss our business?" Hana persuaded Hinata that it would be alright. Despite her reluctance to leave her mother's side after a servant escorted her out, Hana turned to address the Uzumakis. "I have come here without the knowledge of my village or my clan, with the exception of my husband. The reason for this is because what I have to say would have me and my husband executed as traitors to our village." "Very well, nothing you say nor knowledge of your being here will reach your village. I give you my word as an Uzumaki," the daimyo replied. Hana was aware that her next words would either save her daughter or bring her village to ruin. 5 years ago you were told that Kushina, her husband, and their unborn son were killed during the 9-tailed fox's attack on our village. In a tone that implied retaliation if it were true, Kenshin questioned, "Are you saying that was a lie? Is that why they refused to deliver my sister's body?" "I wish it was, but no, Kushina and her husband are gone." "And the child? Did my grandson perish with his parents?" "No, your grandson is alive and, why weren't we told? How dare you?" The daimyo, who had long since lost his grandfatherly demeanor and was now wearing a steeled mask of restrained emotions, yelled, "Quiet Kenshin," in an imperial tone. "Let her finish. I don't know why you were not told, but we were told that the child's heritage must be kept secret until he is old enough to protect himself from his parents' enemies. The few who know of the child's parents have been told to keep it a secret under penalty of death." Genryusai inquired, "So the child is in your care then?" Hana said, "No," after hesitating. "Then which clan took charge of him?" "None. The Hokage forbade any of the clans from fostering him." "Then where has my grandson been raised for the last 5 years?" "He has been at one of the village's civilian orphanages." Kenshin cried out, "What?" but was interrupted by the overwhelming surge of bloodlust emanating from his father. "Are you telling me that your village all but kidnapped my grandson from us, just so he could be left to rot in an orphanage like a commoner? My grandson, my beloved daughter's son, a prince of Whirlpool, in an orphanage, screamed Genri Yusai, his powerful frame shaking. And you didn't do anything about it? You who were to be his godmother, you who Kushina considered a sister in all but blood. My sister would curse you from her grave if she knew you have betrayed her so. Let her speak, son, because what she has to say will determine not only her own fate, but that of her village. Now tell us, what reason could Sarutobi have to lie to us? Why would he risk the destruction of his village to keep my grandson hidden from us? I believe the reason he was kept from you was because in his last act, his father Minato sealed the nine-tailed fox within his own son. I believe that the Hokage knew you would demand custody of the child, and for some unknown reason he refused to lose him. Some unknown reason? It's obvious that he plans on turning my sister's son into a weapon like the other villages do with their own Jinchuriki. If that's the case, then the Leaf Village will burn for this treason, stated Genri Yusai. Please, I beg you not to punish the village for the mistakes of our leaders with all its faults. Kushina still loved the village with all her heart. She died to protect its people. To turn around and destroy it would be an insult to her sacrifice. You expect us to do nothing? Kenshin questioned dismissively. She pulled out a sealing scroll and said, no, I also want my godson out of that horrible place, and I have a way to do it without bloodshed. I have here a betrothal contract signed by myself and my husband, as well as by Kushina and Minato my husband, and I have never been able to make its existence known because of the Hokage. We can't call for it to be activated without suffering the Hokage's wrath, but if you demand it when collecting your grandson, he can't do anything about it or prove you had anything to do with it. Yes, we can say that my daughter sent us the contract for safekeeping, and now that we've discovered the Leaf's lie, we want the contract activated. Yes, you can demand his custody and activate the contract, which will form an alliance with the Hyuga clan. Yes, your clan and not the Leaf Village. That will give my family protection from the Hokage. After all, he won't be able to retaliate against us without risking a conflict with the Uzumaki. Very well, Hana-chan, we will do it your way, for now, but if Sarutobi gives me reason to, I will punish the village for their treachery. Hana was aware that things would only get better with the Uzumaki after agreeing. She started explaining her strategy to them. Genri Yusai spoke to her as she was finishing up and heading out to pick up Hinata. Hana, what is my grandson's name? His name is Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto Uzumaki, a fine name indeed. 3 weeks had passed since Hana and her group had returned to the Leaf Village, and neither the Hokage nor her clan knew what was about to happen as Hinata played with the flowers. Hana, holding little Hanabi in her arms, sat in the Hyuga compound's garden. A figure appeared out of the wall's shadows behind Hana. Without her ever noticing, she heard a voice without emotion. It begins today. Hana spun around and turned on her Byakugan. She searched for the source of the voice, but the individual had disappeared. She was holding Hanabi closer than before because she understood what the person meant. She was aware that decisions would soon be made regarding her family's future. Although Hana was sure her plan would succeed, there was no way to know for sure. She had done everything she could, and now it was beyond her control. The only thing left to do was wait and see what the future held. The third Hokage of the village, hidden in the leaves, Hiruzen Sarutobi, was seated at his desk. Having completed the remarkably minimal amount of paperwork for the day, he thought his day couldn't get any better as he carelessly read a little orange book that his student had written. Unfortunately, fate was an absolute bitch. Sarutobi was reading his favorite book when there was a loud knock on the door. His small orange book disappeared so quickly that you would have missed it if you had blinked. As he assumed his Hokage pose, he said, "Yes, come in." As his assistant entered, he became agitated and said, "I thought I said that I was doing important business and was not to be bothered." Lord Hokage, one of the Anbu you sent to the border patrols is requesting to see you, he said. "It's urgent, sir." The Hokage sighed in defeat and said, "All right, let him in." The Anbu in question was kneeling before the Hokage shortly after that. "Lord Hokage, I have urgent news that you need to hear." While lighting his pipe, Sarutobi remarked, "Very well, report." "My lord, as my team and I were performing a routine border patrol, we heard talk of a large fleet being spotted of the coast of Fire Country. The information didn't seem very reliable, but my team and I checked it out anyway. As we patrolled the coast near the Land of Waves, we did in fact spot a large fleet of ships anchored just off our coast." The Anbu hesitated, almost afraid to continue. "We saw a large number of samurai mobilizing and preparing to march." "Sir, they were preparing to march towards the eastern road, which means their only possible target is the Leaf Village. Did you see who they belong to? And how many samurai are we talking about? How long till they reach the village?" Sarutobi responded he wanted to be absolutely certain even though he knew the answers in his heart. The Anbu responded to the Hokage with a hint of fear. The samurai bear the crest of Whirlpool. I don't have exact numbers, but I would say they're 2,000 strong at least, maybe more. Unopposed. They will be here in 2 days. With a composed demeanor, Sarutobi said, I see. Contact every member of the council. Tell them we have an emergency meeting. Sir, one last thing. The Badosei himself is leading them. I saw him with my own eyes, sir. Go. Now. The Anbu departed in a flurry of foliage. Right away a youthful Anbu in a crow mask materialized in front of the Hokage as he snapped his fingers. He said in a monotone, You called Lord Hokage? Itachi, find the boy and take him to my home. You are to remain there until I say otherwise. Let no one see you. Let no one anywhere near him until I get there. Do you understand your mission? Yes, Lord Hokage. Itachi left without waiting for anything more. Before heading to the council room, Sarutobi gave the fourth Hokage's picture one final glance. Hiashi entered his room in the Hyuga compound, where Hana was sitting and watching their sleeping kids. The Hokage just called for an emergency meeting, he said. She didn't look at him when she said, I see. The words, Don't worry, my love, we are ready, were delivered in a comforting voice. With fear visible in her eyes, she turned to face him and asked, But what if something goes wrong? In an unarguable tone, he declared, Nothing will go wrong. Our family will be safe. I will make sure of it. I must go. I will speak with you when I return. As her husband left for the meeting, Hana could only give him a nod. She was unable to avoid worrying. This was her plan, and she would be held accountable if something went wrong. It was still nerve-wracking even though she knew it was for the best. As the remaining clan leaders and civilian council members arrived for the meeting, the Hokage sat in the council room and watched before speaking to them. He waited until they were all seated. I have called you all here today to tell you that an army of samurai has landed on our eastern coast and it appears to be ready to march against us. If left unopposed, it will be here in 2 days at the earliest. The room erupted in yells, screams, and arguments. Just from that statement, the Hokage gave them a few seconds to continue before shouting, Enough! Be quiet! Everyone had to stop talking so he could continue. One of the Hokage's advisors, Danzo Shimura, spoke up after everyone had quieted down. Where are they from? And how many of them are there? The Hokage, aware of the reaction, said, They are about 2,000 strong, and they bear the crest of Whirlpool. As it turned out, he had to calm them down once more before one of the clan leaders could speak. Shibi Aburame, the head of the bug-using Aburame clan, questioned, What reason would cause the Daimyo of Whirlpool to attack us now? He has been satisfied for 5 years with only severing ties with our village. One of the civilian council members interrupted the Hokage before he could respond. What does it matter the reason? And why are we not just sending our ninja to simply crush these invaders? They're just lowly samurai. Our ninja should have no problem dealing with them. All of the clan leaders and many of the senior civilian council members gazed at him, wondering if he was truly that foolish. The fool's expression made it clear that he was the head of the Yamanaka clan. Inochi Yamanaka finally responded to his foolish query. Shikaku Nara, the head of the Nara clan and Inochi's longtime friend, also contributed, The reason may not matter to you, fool, but it matters to those of us who have to go out there and die to protect idiots like you, they said. He put his head on the table and said, boredly, and the reason we don't just send our ninja after them is because we don't have the manpower to face them in open battle. They would outnumber us and outpower us as well. Even though he appeared to be trying to fall asleep, his mind was racing with potential explanations. In addition, he was trying to come up with ideas for how his house could survive this ordeal. But they're just samurai. You're ninja. Can't you just shoot some jutsu at them or something? That same fool responded. Sarutobi was already fed up with this moron, whose name he could not yet remember. No, we can't. These are not ordinary samurai we are dealing with. They're not the sword-wielding thugs that call themselves samurai here. This is the Guardian Corps we are dealing with. They're the elite of Whirlpool and not to be underestimated, the third replied. Shibi continued to explain because a number of the younger civilians continued to appear perplexed. The Guardian Corps is specially trained to battle against shinobi. They have armor that prevents us from using most ninjutsu or genjutsu against them, with samurai specializing in close combat. It is not logical to rush in to battle them unprepared, with only taijutsu, he said with a cool and collected tone. The Hokage went on after the civilian idiots had stopped talking. It has also been reported that the Badosei himself is leading them. Every ninja in the room knew how strong that man was, so when Sarutobi heard this news, the blood drained from their faces as he had anticipated. Apparently, others were unaware, which is why a pink-haired woman asked the next dumb question. Sayuki Haruno had no idea who they were referring to or why he was so important. She looked at both men and smiled naively, asking, Who is this Badosei? I never heard of him, and what does it matter if he's leading them? I'm sure someone like Hokage-sama or Uchiha-sama can take care of him. The Hokage simply shook his head in shock at the woman's folly, while Fugaku Uchiha, the head of the Uchiha clan and the head of the ninja police, chose to ignore her. He also pondered, for what felt like the millionth time, whether his sensei, the second Hokage, was intoxicated or under the influence of drugs when he established the civilian council. I'm afraid that is not the case. I'm an old man, and if I'm honest with myself, I doubt that even if I was in my prime, that I would be a match for a member of the Roku Kyoshu, replied the Hokage. Roku Kyoshu? A civilian inquired. The Hokage gave a nod. Yes, the 6 great masters. They are a group that is recognized as the masters of their respected fields. Each of them wears coats of the masters as proof of their power. Another civilian inquired, what do you mean by that, Lord Hokage? There are 6 coats that are said to have been made by the Sage of 6 Paths himself. He presented these coats to his original 6 disciples, each who specialized in one of the 6 great ninja arts, ninjutsu, genjutsu, taijutsu, kenjutsu, senjutsu, and fuinjutsu. Since the creation of the ninja arts, these coats have been passed down from master to master. There are only 2 ways for the coat and title of master to be passed down. Either by the current master of a field to willingly pass the title, or by someone stronger killing the current master and claiming the coat by force. Most of the civilians in the room finally realized how serious the situation was, and a lot of people were suddenly terrified. A terrified older man said, surely we have someone that can fight him? We have powerful ninja, don't we? Sarutobi wasn't sure if he should tell them a lie or not. The only one who might be able to face him would be Jiraiya. He isn't here, and we can't be sure that he can get here on time, he informed them, choosing to be honest. The next person to speak was an irritated Danzo. And whose fault is it that both our remaining Sannin are out of the village if you didn't let them do what they? It wouldn't matter if he was here, was the first thing that Hiashi Hyuga's majestic voice said. Now that everyone was staring at him, he went on. In all of his life, Kenshin Uzumaki has only failed to win one fight he wanted to win. Even then, his opponent was only able to fight him to a draw. Even the Hokage had never heard of this before. The Batosei had never been known to fight to a draw. Fugaku sneered and said, and who, pray tell, was his opponent Hyuga? For I have never heard of this. I believe you have heard of him, Uchiha. After all, he was our teammate for years, but perhaps you remember him best as your 4th Hokage, Hiashi responded, attempting to maintain his mask while glaring at the Uchiha head with a mask of indifference. He was really annoyed by the Uchiha. The Hokage broke the stunned silence in the room. Minato fought the Batosei. When? And for what reason? And how is it that only you know of this? I know because my wife and I saw the fight with our own eyes. The reason nobody knows is because it is not common knowledge, and the reason they fought was for the hand of Kushina, the head of the Inuzuka clan. Sume Inuzuka questioned, they fought for Kushina's hand? Yes, when my wife and I accompanied Minato to ask for permission to marry Kushina, her father said it was tradition for anyone wishing to prove themselves worthy of marrying an Uzumaki, to show it by proving their strength in mortal combat. Kushina's younger brother did not feel Minato was worthy to marry his sister and gladly volunteered to be the one to test him. They both fought with everything they had, and in the end the Daimyo stopped the fight before they killed each other. Naturally, the Daimyo gave Minato his blessing to marry his daughter, much to the frustration of his son. Everyone in the room was made acutely aware of the strength of the man spearheading the assault on their village. By that revelation they were aware that none of them could compete with the 4th. The whole thing was problematic. As Shikaku would say, everyone's attention was drawn when a Chunin ran into the room before any more conversation could begin. Lord Hokage. A group of samurai has been spotted a few miles outside the village. Many in the room were taken aback and alarmed by this. They believed they had time to get ready for the assault. The Hokage asked urgently, how many? 12 samurai are escorting a carriage. They are less than 3 miles from our northern gate. A council member asked, obviously perplexed, a carriage? Yes, a carriage with the flag of Whirlpool and the royal crest of the Uzumaki clan. The council was trying to determine what this might mean. Might it be a ruse? Or some distraction? A second Chunin entered the room carrying a note. While the conversation was still in progress, he handed it to the Hokage. As he ran, he read it carefully before addressing the anxious council members in the room. I received this note from our northern gate. It says that the carriage belongs to the Whirlpool Daimyo. That was a huge shock because the Uzumaki Daimyo's departure from his nation was practically unheard of. It says that he has requested a meeting with the Hokage and the village council. If we refuse, there will be no other chances for discussion until the leaf has been destroyed. The room erupted into chaos as soon as he was done. Sarutobi finally got them to calm down when he had had enough and ordered them to remain silent and orderly once more. We will all go and meet the Daimyo at the gate. After we greet him we will all return here and try to negotiate peace with him for whatever he thinks we have done to him. Everyone out. We meet him at the gate in 20 minutes. Sarutobi was about to leave when a well-known Anbu showed up kneeling beside him. What are you doing here, Itachi? Where is Naruto? Forgive me, Lord Hokage, but I was unable to locate him at the orphanage. The Hokage screamed in rage. What do you mean? Where is he? It appears that the matron of the orphanage kicked him out last night for some reason. I didn't wait to hear what that reason was. The Hokage was aware that he ought to have dismissed the worthless woman. Her ignorance and bigotry had just put the entire village in danger. The Hokage yelled, "Find him. Now." He was certain that it would be a miracle if he didn't suffer a heart attack by the end of the day. A 5-year-old boy with blonde hair and whisker-like markings on his cheeks was hiding behind a trash can while the council met with the Uzumaki Daimyo. He was trying not to cry. He was the last to eat dinner at the orphanage last night, as he usually is, and he hardly received any food at all. He had requested a little more because he was extremely hungry after becoming enraged with him. The matron pulled him from the orphanage. She told him to leave after throwing him down the stairs. "I'm sick of taking care of a dirty demon that should be dead," she said. Little Naruto had slept in a box next to a restaurant that was closed. He had gotten some of the food they threw out by climbing up to the dumpster. He had wandered the village after the sun came out, looking for the kind elderly man who occasionally paid him a visit. He searched for a while, but he was exhausted and starting to feel hungry again. During his search, Naruto discovered a playground. Many children were playing various games. He was never permitted to play with other children in the orphanage because the staff claimed he was dangerous and would harm the other children, so he just sat in a swing and watched them all play. The kind old man insisted that Naruto listen to them even though he didn't believe he was dangerous. It happened while Naruto was peacefully sitting on his swing. Naruto was yelled at by one of the parents, a man he had never seen before. Numerous other villagers who were passing by took notice of this. They all began shouting at him and referring to him as a monster or demon. They began hurling objects at Naruto before he realized what was going on, and they hurt. They began chasing after Naruto after he fled in fear. After running as quickly as his small legs would allow, Naruto dove behind a trash can in the hopes that no one would notice him. He could hear them searching for him, so he sat there. He wanted to cry, but he made a concerted effort to keep quiet. Someone kicked the trash can he was hiding behind. Just as he was about to leave, the man kicked Naruto in the chest, causing him to skid across the floor until he struck the wall. Naruto's final experiences before fainting were the agony of hitting the wall, a red flash, and the sound of frightened cries. Back in the council room, the atmosphere was unbearable. Despite being greeted, the daimyo had remained silent at this point. They were all sitting in the room, waiting for him to say or do anything. Sarutobi started the meeting because he could stand waiting no longer. "We were told that you requested this meeting so that we may find a way to resolve whatever it is that has caused the country of Whirlpool to wish to do war with our village." With his raptor-like eyes, Genri Usai scanned the room, sensing the anxiety and fear emanating from the idiots present. The land of Whirlpool has recently come into information that this village has done a great evil against our people. That information has been confirmed today. Before Utatane Kaharu, one of the Hokage's advisors, spoke, there were a few anxious murmurs around the table. "What is this supposed evil that we have done? No ninja of the leaf has set foot in Whirlpool in 5 years. Before he responded, Genri Usai fixed her with his piercing violet eyes. "The betrayal was done before our alliance was severed. That is why the wound has been so deep. It was not a former ally that betrayed us, but one we had been close for decades." Sarutobi opened his mouth to change the subject, but someone else beat him to it. The same idiot who spoke earlier today said, "You have yet to tell us what you say we have done or what we can do to make things okay again." Genri Usai's body tensed as he obviously attempted to contain his anger, and his eyes narrowed at the idiot. However, no one could guess the daimyo's feelings because of the killer intent that escaped him. Genri Usai had barely recovered enough composure to speak when a voice behind him spoke. "What you have done is betrayed the Uzumaki clan, and I hold the proof in my arms." Kenshin Uzumaki emerged with the small figure of a boy with blonde hair, seemingly emerging from the darkness. When Sarutobi saw the Badosei appear with Naruto in his arms, his heart stopped. He found the current state of affairs unbelievably dire. The Uzumaki reportedly wanted retribution after realizing they had been duped. Today couldn't get any worse, so he would be fortunate if he could prevent his village from going to war right now. How mistaken he was. Things deteriorated as soon as Sarutobi had the idea. The civilian fool screamed, "What the hell is that demon doing here?" Sarutobi believed that in order to punish the idiot for the misery he was causing him at the moment, he really needed to know his name. Regretfully, the other civilians yelled similar things. After this, Sarutobi would make sure they spent a month with Anko and Ibiki if he ever discovered who had informed them. Danzo. that Naruto was the fox's vessel. The combined effort of both Uzumaki released a wave of immense killer intent that silenced the shouting. Several civilians were rendered unconscious by the strain in a matter of seconds, and several clan heads were also struggling to remain conscious. It was unlike anything anyone in the room had ever experienced before. Clearly placing his hand at the sword on his hip, Genri Usai roared in anger, "If anyone ever calls my grandson that vile name again, I will personally remove their head from their body. Am I clear?" To the delight of the Leaf members, the pressure was gradually released. The council's reaction to the daimyo's statement was exactly what Sarutobi had feared. Although most of the ninja turned to face Sarutobi with either confusion, disbelief, anger, betrayal, or a combination of all of these emotions, the civilians' looks of shock and recognition were followed by shouts of anger and denial. Silence. Genri Usai had no desire to put up with these idiots' outbursts. "My son will explain why I call this child my grandson." In an attempt to get his son to give him the child, Genri Usai held out his arms. When Genri Usai first saw his grandson, he thought he would cry when he saw the boy's face. Despite having his father's hair, the boy's face was unquestionably his mother's. Naturally, after the initial shock subsided, Genri Usai became aware of the cuts and bruises the young boy had sustained throughout his body and face. In addition, he weighed significantly less than a healthy boy of his age and was obviously malnourished. Before his son put his hand on his shoulder and told him to calm down, Genri Usai felt his anger rising once more. Being the one who needed to be calmed was an uncommon experience, particularly when his son, of all people, was the one who did it. As he spoke, Kenshin glared at the audience, telling them to keep their mouths shut. As you all know, the Uzumaki clan specializes in sealing techniques. As such, we have developed many specialized type of seals. One such seal is a blood analysis seal. This particular seal analyzes a person's blood down to the tiniest detail. With this seal we can know, among other things, without a shadow of a doubt, if someone belongs to a specific clan or family. I used this seal on the boy. He is without question the son of my sister and her husband, the fourth Hokage. Silence fell. Although many of the civilians appeared to be eager to argue, they were astute enough to realize that calling this man a liar in public would probably result in your death or the loss of some limbs. Danzo was fuming inside. It had always been his intention to seize the boy and use him as a weapon. Now that the Uzumaki were taking him away, he knew it would not be possible. He needed to come up with a plan to keep the fox boy in the community. With a purposeful glance at the Hokage, he said, "If what you say is true, I can assure you that it was not made known to the council. Had it been known to us, he would have been treated as his proper station dictated. As the last heir of the Namikaze clan and the son of the fourth Hokage." Danzo grinned to himself, knowing that if the boy was accepted as the fourth son, he would be the only one allowed to stay in the village. The ninja of this village would only fight to ensure it happened, because it was the only way the foolish civilians would want the boy here. The civilians almost worshipped the fourth Hokage, and all shinobi loved him. Yes, for Danzo's scheme to succeed, the boy had to be identified as the fourth son. Sarutobi had to follow Danzo's lead. Even though he knew he was up to something, I kept the knowledge of Naruto's parents a secret for his own safety. Minato and Kushina made many powerful enemies. Enemies that would have come after him in an attempt to get revenge on his parents by killing him. The village was too weak after the losses suffered from the attack of the fox. The only way to keep Naruto safe was to keep his identity as the last Namikaze a secret. The Hokage received a death glare from Genri Usai. "My grandson would have been perfectly safe behind the walls of Iandril. You had right to keep him from us." Sarutobi felt older than ever as he acknowledged that he had not done a very good job of keeping an eye on Naruto. "I apologize. I promised Minato that I would ensure his son would be safe. I know I have made mistakes. I have tried to do my best, but I'm far from perfect. All that I can say is I am sorry for the mistakes I made, but I did what I thought was best at the time." Sarutobi was met with a glaring Kenshin pointing to Naruto, who was covered in cuts, bruises, and dirt. He spat out, "Your mistakes will cost you dearly. Look at how I found my nephew. I found him being attacked by a mob of your people. He's only 5 for Kami's sakes." When Sarutobi heard that, his face went white. Danzo was fuming at the civilians' foolishness, and several members of the ninja council appeared enraged. It would be very difficult to persuade the Uzumaki to leave the boy here. At this point, the Hokage made an effort to comfort the Uzumaki. "I can assure you that those responsible will pay for their actions," Kenshin stated in a cold voice. "They already have, and they paid with their worthless lives." Many council members gasped in surprise and looked scared at this statement. The Hokage was unsure of how to react. He was deeply saddened by the deaths of these misguided people, but he was also incensed at his people for attacking a child. A civilian began, "Why you killed them? You had no right." "I had every right. Kenshin retorted. He looked straight at the Hokage as he said, "Remember that any attack on the Uzumaki clan will be paid with the blood of those responsible." Just as Sarutobi opened his mouth to reply, Danzo interrupted. "While the incident is an unfortunate one, I believe it's best that we place it behind us, and I can give you my word that the council will make sure that the young Namikaze heir has 24 hours Anbu watch from now on." His father spoke before Kenshin could reply to the man in the bandage. "I can assure You that your Anbu won't be necessary, as my grandson won't ever set foot in this village again." Danzo, though, was unfazed. He is the son of the 4th Hokage and heir to the Namikaze clan. He belongs to this village. "He belongs to this village," exclaimed Genryusai, rising from his chair with a vengeful aura that was nearly palpable as he scowled at the council. Kenshin put his right hand conspicuously on the hilt of his sword. Sarutobi didn't have any illusions that they would prevail in that battle, and he couldn't believe how badly things were going at this rate. A fight would start. The Uzumaki might eventually be worn down by his ninja after all. He had some strong jonin. But the village would suffer terrible harm from 2 Roku Kyoshu members. Sarutobi knew he had to stop a fight with the Uzumaki because their samurai were approaching. Please forgive Danzo for his foolish mistake. He obviously misspoke and meant that Naruto belonged in this village. After all, it's what his parents wanted. They both wanted their son to be a ninja of this village. Or would you really deny your daughter's and her husband's last wish? Sarutobi responded. Danzo had to give Sarutobi some credit. Even though he was furious that he made him appear foolish, it was shrewd to play at the honor of the Uzumaki. They would never allow Kushina's final desires to remain unmet. "I'm afraid that at this moment I have no choice but to ignore my daughter's wishes," replied Genryusai. "I do not trust your village with the safety of my grandson." Danzo thought, "Damn this stubborn fool." Then he got an idea and took action. "You don't have a choice. International law states that the father's clan has the higher claim to the child. Now that it is known he is the son of our greatest and most beloved leader, this village will fight for him if necessary." This was exactly what they wanted to happen, and both Uzumaki grinned inwardly with such conviction that no one in the room had any doubts. Genryusai declared, "If the Leaf wants a call for war, Whirlpool will be happy to answer. For 5 years I have held my people back, but no longer my army will lay waste to this village, that I guarantee all of you." The Hokage begged, "Please. I'm sure none of us wants to start a war over this. I'm sure we can find some way to compromise." "There will be no compromise, Sarutobi. My grandson will not live in this village any longer. And you're ready to start a conflict that will destroy both our lands over this? The Guardian Corps may be strong, but you can't fight all of Fire Country with 2,000 men, no matter how skilled they are," replied the Hokage. Danzo joined Sarutobi after spotting an opening. "That's right. The Fire Lord will not stand to have an invading army on his land. You would not only fight the Leaf Ninja but the samurai legions of Fire Country as well, and they alone outnumber you over 10 to 1. In the hopes of averting a battle that would claim thousands of lives, Sarutobi declared, "The Leaf would also have the aid of our ninja allies. The Sand, Star, and Waterfall villages would be on our side." Before responding, Genryusai started to rub his beard with one hand as though he was thinking about what they had said. He smirked at them, sending a chill down their spines, and said, "Yes, it would be a rather costly endeavor for us if things were as you said there. It's a good thing that things are most certainly not the way you say they are." "Of cower," initiated Danzo. Genryusai interrupted, saying, "No, they're not. The help you could get from the minor ninja villages would be insignificant if you got any help at all, and while the Sand Village could be a problem, they have had a hard time recuperating from the last war. The Cage would not risk losing the major provider of goods to his village over you wanting to steal my grandson. No, I don't think you will have their aid at all." Mostly because the old fool was likely correct in his assessment of the situation, Danzo growled. "The Fire Daimyo would still not let your samurais simply." Genryusai just began to laugh, interrupting him. "Have none of you wondered why I came to you from the northern road to your village?" There were blank expressions of bewilderment until someone said, "Troublesome." The head of the Nara clan caught everyone's attention. "It has been bothering me since we were told. Now I realize why you were coming from the north when your army was coming from the east. You were coming from paying a visit to the Fire Daimyo, weren't you?" At that, Genryusai's grin widened. As usual, the intellect of the Nara clan is impressive. "Yes. I did pay a visit to my old friend the Fire Lord. He was overjoyed to have me in his home and received me with a massive feast in my honor, and imagine his surprise when I told him the reason for my visit. He was naturally appalled that a village that his country hosted had done such treachery as to basically kidnap a member of the Whirlpool royal family." "But we didn't know," exclaimed one of the general public. "Neither your daimyo nor I care much about it," Genryusai retorted. "He even offered to come here himself at the head of his army to make sure my grandson was returned to me. The Fire Daimyo knows well what damage I can do militantly, economically, and politically." He won't side with you in this, of course. My promising to resume our trade with Fire Country if he gave me his support in this also helped, he said with a grin on his face. Let's face it. Your village is at an all-time low. You haven't recuperated from the Fox's attack and the short war with the Cloud Village that shortly followed it. If there was a war between our nations, your village would not survive. Knowing that the Daimyo was correct, the council members and the Hokage bowed their heads in surrender. It was all their own fault, and they were going to lose their greatest hero's son forever. A voice caught everyone's attention just as everything appeared to be lost. The voice of Hiashi Hyuga said, "Perhaps there is no need for conflict. I don't know if you are aware, but both I and my wife, Hana Hyuga, were rather close to Minato and your daughter Kushina." Knowing that everything was going according to plan, Genri Usai grinned. Genri Usai used his grandfather-like voice to say, "Yes, how is Hana-chan? I have missed her dearly since the last time she came to Whirlpool." His abrupt attitude changes actually made some people find it unsettling. "She is doing well, thank you. She is at home with my newborn daughter, but it was actually my eldest daughter that I wished to speak to you about." Genri Usai scowled while feigning distress. "Is that so? This wouldn't have anything to do with a certain document that my daughter sent to me for safekeeping, would it?" As Hiashi and the Uzumaki had intended, this had everyone's attention. "It would, but I will leave it for you to decide. I will tell you this. It would have made your daughter very happy if you agreed to it. I know my wife would be thrilled if you did." Sayuki Haruno said, "Pardon me, Hyuga-sama, Uzumaki-sama, but what are you talking about?" Genri Usai replied after glancing at the woman with the pink hair. "We are talking about a betrothal contract that was made between my grandson and Hiashi's eldest daughter and signed by my daughter and her husband." All Leaf members were excited by this. This was an opportunity to retain the son of the fourth in the village. As he rubbed his beard, the Daimyo remarked, "I guess I would be open to considering it, under certain conditions of course," he replied. Hiashi inquired, "What conditions would those be?" "First and most important, the contract was for your daughter to join the Namikaze clan. That will be impossible as I intend to make my grandson my heir. If you agree to this, you must agree that your daughter will join the Uzumaki clan. He is the son of the fourth Hokage. He is by birthright the heir on the Namikaze clan, and you have a healthy son able to pass on your family name," Danzo said before Hiashi could respond. "My son has forfeited his right to the line of succession. He has sworn an oath never to take a wife again. As such, I have the right to choose another as my heir. I choose my grandson, Naruto Uzumaki, as the heir of Whirlpool. Your own Daimyo has accepted my choice. I believe it was in the hopes of arranging a marriage with my grandson and one of his granddaughters, but I made no promises." Fugaku Uchiha remarked, "Then maybe a different arrangement can be made, as the last heir of two clans he has." "No." The Daimyo of Uzumaki yelled. "The Uzumaki do not practice the CRA." Fugaku calmly replied, "And maybe that's why your clan has only 2 members left." 3 members, Kenshin corrected, his voice piercing. Confident that he could find a way to influence the boy to join the CRA, Danzo said, "Perhaps we should allow Naruto to choose whether or not he wishes to be part of the CRA when he is older. After all, Danzo would require powerful warriors if he were to become Hokage." Genri Usai said, "I can agree to that. What about you, Hiashi?" "That is acceptable to me." "Very well. My second condition is that since my grandson will live in Whirlpool, that your daughter spend the summer in Iandril with him like your wife did with Kushina." Hiashi responded, "That's fine if it can wait until she starts the academy." "Agreed." Sarutobi cut in, "I apologize for disturbing this conversation, but I believe it's only fair for young Hinata and both of Naruto's parents that he too spends some time in the Leaf Village. It was both of his parents' wishes that he became a ninja in the service of his home. The Leaf Village is no longer his home. However, I will allow him the choice to return here when Hinata is ready to become a genin, and if he wishes he too can join the Leaf as a ninja as well." Genri Usai said this reluctantly because he knew his daughter would have preferred it if he had given Naruto the option. Sarutobi dropped the issue because he knew that this was the closest he would get for the time being. Genri Usai turned to go, but not before giving a final speech to the council. Without saying another word, the daimyo left the room with his son protecting his back and his grandson in his arms. "I will make myself clear on this. You should all be thankful to Hiashi and his wife. My current agreement with the Hyuga clan is the only reason I'm not declaring war on your village this very second, as long as the alliance between the Hyuga and the Uzumaki stands." Hiashi grinned in his head at how well his wife's scheme had worked out. In addition to his family and village being safe, his wife's godson was also present. Since there could be no better husband for Hinata than the new prince of Whirlpool, he had also secured protection for his daughter from the clan council. Even though Hiashi enjoyed seeing the council's horrified and irate expressions, he had to inform his wife that everything had gone smoothly. In his Hyuga voice, Hiashi stated, I have to inform my wife and my clan about the latest developments from this meeting, if you don't mind. Yes, I think we all need to reflect on what happened in this meeting, and I need to prepare for the announcement that I will make to the village letting them know about Naruto's heritage. Now that he is with the Uzumaki, there is no reason to keep that information hidden. Sarutobi appeared to be very unhappy when he said that declaration. What a drag, you know this is going to cause a lot of grief with everyone in the village, replied Shikaku. I know, but we don't really have a choice anymore. The Uzumaki will not keep quiet about Naruto's parents. The village will have to deal with it whether they like it or not, replied the third. When Hiashi entered his room a few minutes later, he discovered Hana sitting by herself on their bed. He inquired, "Where are the children?" As she got to her feet, she said anxiously, "Hanabi is in the nursery and Hinata is practicing her taijutsu. How did it go?" In fact, Hiashi was beaming broadly as he put his arms around his stunning wife's waist. It all went perfectly, just as you planned. Naruto is with his family, the council and the Hokage can't do anything about it, and Hinata is now his betrothed. Hana put her arms around her husband's neck and gave him a passionate kiss. That great. When do we tell the elders? And Hinata, when does she meet Naruto? I will tell the elders the news in a meeting tonight. Hinata, I think we can wait to tell. I think the Daimyo wants some time to get Naruto accustomed to the life in his new home before Get tells him about his responsibility to Hinata. My guess is that Genryu Sai wants to wait at least 2 years until just before Hinata starts the academy until we tell them about their arranged marriage. Yes, I suppose that's for the best. At least our daughter gets a couple more years to just be a little girl. I'm very happy that all went well. All we can hope now is that the children can find love with each other. Hana's tone then changed from joyous to one of anxiety. What about the cage-bird seal? The elders will want to place it on Hinata immediately. Hiashi's grin turned into a smirk. Don't worry about that. I have some bad news for the elders. If they think they will be placing that abomination on my daughter, I was unable to do anything for my brother or his son, but I will save my child from that fate. Hana gave her husband a tighter hug. She was aware of his intense pain at his brother's selfless sacrifice for him every day. Hana thanked Hisashi for the sacrifice. She had tried her hardest to assist Neji, but the boy grew colder and talked more and more about fate in order to support her nephew, and her husband as well. Hana would need to put in more effort. Hana would simply have to wait and see what fate had in store for everyone. Only the future would know. With his emotionless mask on, Hiashi sat in the clan council room. He was aware that there would be conflict within the clan as a result of the upcoming meeting. Knowing how much he was going to irritate the clan elders, he was struggling to keep a smile on his face. Thank you for coming to this meeting. I have news from my meeting with the council and the following meeting between the village council and the Whirlpool Daimyo. One of the elders questioned, and what news do you have, Hiashi? Is war with Whirlpool inevitable? It seemed that was the case. However, I was able to reach an agreement with the Uzumaki that saved the village from war, replied Hiashi. What do you mean? What agreement? And what does this agreement with the Uzumaki mean for the clan? Asked a different elder. The elder's shocked expressions made Hiashi smirk inwardly. The agreement was for a marriage between my daughter Hinata and the heir of Whirlpool. It didn't take him long to see how they responded. An elder who didn't seem to mind the idea of a 5-year-old girl being engaged to a man over 20 years older asked, "You betrothed Hinata to the Batosai. How did you get him to agree?" Hiashi gave the man a fierce look before responding. No, Hinata has been betrothed to the Whirlpool Daimyo's grandson Naruto Uzumaki. Outrage swiftly followed shock, as Hiashi had anticipated. What do you mean by that, Hiashi? How is that? Abomination, the heir of Whirlpool. Explain yourself. It appears that Naruto bears the Uzumaki name for a reason. He has been proven to be the son of Kushina Uzumaki, Princess of Whirlpool, and her husband the 4th Hokage. Because of this he has been chosen as the heir of Whirlpool in order to prevent war. One suggested an alliance between our clan and the Uzumaki via a political marriage between Hinata and the young prince. What possible reason could you have to do that? Why would you ally our great clan with that demon? He is the son of our village's greatest hero and leader. The 3rd Hokage admitted that it was true himself. He will also be the next daimyo of Whirlpool. He will lead one of the richest and most powerful nations in the world. What do you think will happen when he takes the throne? He will lead his armies and burn this village to the ground. But if his future wife has her family in this village, that won't be the case. It appears that the elders have finally realized that this was beneficial to the clan. One of the most powerful royal families in the world was the Uzumaki. The clan might gain a lot from a political and economic alliance between the Hyuga and the Uzumaki. An elder receiving nods of agreement from the others stated, I suppose that the next daimyo of Whirlpool is an acceptable match for Hinata. Yes, this will bring honor and respect for the clan. Hiashi believed that things were going better than he anticipated until I suggest that we prepare to place the cage bird seal on Hinata as soon as possible so she can be Hiashi interrupted, saying, "We won't be placing the seal on Hinata." Hiashi was glared at by the elder. "She will be marrying someone outside our clan. She will have her bloodline sealed as it's always done. We won't let our bloodline be taken by another clan, no matter who they are." Hiashi gave the elder a fierce look. "Have you forgotten that the Uzumaki are the greatest seal masters alive? The Daimyo is the finest seal master in the world, and do not forget that it was an Uzumaki that developed the original seal we used to protect our bloodline before we changed it to the way it is now." The elder began by saying, "That doesn't give them a say on how it's used. If anyone can find a way to remove it, it's the people that created it in the first place," stated Hiashi. The room was filled with anxious murmurs as a result. "Surely we can reason with the Daimyo. He must understand that we do this only to protect our bloodline. If that was true, I'm sure we could reach an agreement. However, we all know that's not the case. If all our seal did was protect our bloodline, there wouldn't be a problem. The cagebird seal, however, practically enslaves the branch members." One of the elders growled, "For the sake of the clan, the branch members must be kept in their proper place. If the Uzumaki won't agree, then we will simply terminate the marriage agreement," stated another. As a ghost of a smile appeared on Hiashi's face, he was powerless to stop it. Hiashi began to say, "I'm afraid that is not possible. Our alliance with the Uzumaki is the only reason we are not at war, but was cut off. That is not our concern. The Hyuga clan has already made a sacrifice to prevent war with the Cloud Village. We will not sacrifice the Byakugan to stop this one. And who will the village blame? We would lose all our power and prestige. Besides, you're under the impression that the Uzumaki will give us a choice," replied Hiashi. "We will not let them steal our bloodline." Hiashi was getting angry with these elderly idiots and said, "They don't care about our bloodline. The Uzumaki are one of the oldest clans in the world, much older than our own, and they already have a powerful bloodline of their own. Then why do they care if we seal Hinata? If you must know, I will tell you exactly what the Uzumaki Daimyo told me. He said, I will not have the future queen of Whirlpool branded like she is a piece of cattle. Any attempts to do so, or if your clan breaks our agreement, will result in the Uzumaki declaring a blood feud with the Hyuga clan. A feud that will only end with the extinction of your clan." The daimyo was very adamant that he will not let one of the future leaders of his nation be subservient to any outside influence. Hiashi's smirk was apparent as he examined angry elders. Now it was painfully clear that the idiots had believed they could somehow control Hinata to their advantage. Well, they were probably so angry because they now knew she was untouchable to save their own lives. The conceited idiots knew the village would be happy to sell them out. No other village would take them in because of their blood feud with the Uzumaki. "I believe that this meeting is over. If you'll excuse me, I think I will go and speak to my wife about this new development." As the irate elders quarreled with one another, Hiashi got up and walked out of the room. Genri Usai and Kenshin had taken the carriage at full speed and arrived at their camp within a few hours after observing Naruto's state. When they arrived, they hurried Naruto to the medical tent, where Megumi Takani, 22, the head of the Guardian Corps medical unit and the Uzumaki clan's personal doctor, greeted them. Megumi, a stunning woman with dark eyes and long black hair, was examining Naruto while wearing a medical apron over her typical lavender kimono. After cleaning and tending to Naruto's injuries, she turned to face the Uzumaki, her normally playful eyes displaying anger. She looked at Kenshin and remarked, "What kind of animals would do this to a child? I hope you made sure they were punished for this." "I can assure you they all paid with their lives. My sword made sure of it," replied Kenshin. Megumi gave him a nod of approval before turning to face the daimyo and speaking. He had several injuries. Broken and fractured bones were the worst, but those seemed to be healing at an extraordinary rate, most likely due to him being a Jinchuriki. "The cuts and bruises are gone and I didn't find any internal injuries. He will be fine with some rest and should be awake by tomorrow. What worries me is that he is in a serious state of malnutrition. I will need to prepare a special diet and some medicine to help him gain the weight he should have. He has so little fat on his body. I'm not surprised he's so small." Genri Usai said, "Thank you, Megumi-chan. Please let me know if you need anything." Before heading out to get Naruto's medication ready, Megumi gave him a little bow. "Are you seriously going to let him return to that miserable place?" replied Kenshin. "Like I said, it will be his choice whether we like it or not. Your sister loved that village and would have wanted him to at least have the chance to choose to go there or not. I don't like it, but I will do as you say. Father, excuse me, but I must let the men know that we must prepare to go home. I'm sure they will be disappointed, but it is for the best." Kenshin had observed the expressions on his men's faces and said, "Several of them saw Naruto's condition. You know that as soon as we get home the whole city will know of it too." He didn't blame them at all, but they appeared ready to kill. Yes, I know we will have to do what we can to make sure there are no incidents, especially now that we will resume trade with Fire Country Leaf Ninja will once again be able to enter our land. I don't want unnecessary violence in our home. I will do what I can. After that, Kenshin departed to get ready for their return trip. Naruto opened his eyes the following day, feeling lightheaded. It didn't take him long to realize that this was the softest bed he had ever been in. He looked around after sitting up, but he was unable to pinpoint his location. He recalled being ejected from the orphanage and then being attacked by everyone, but nothing happened. The hospital that the kind old man with the funny hat had once taken him to didn't look like this room. In addition, he had a funny feeling that the room was shifting. Additionally, it had an odd smell. Like fish or something. Naruto heard the door open before he could ask himself, where the hell am I? A very attractive woman with black hair entered, and Naruto turned to see her. Before she spoke, she gave him a smile. Ah, I see you're awake. Good morning, Naruto. Are you feeling okay? Naruto was at a loss for words. He had received no kindness except from the elderly man wearing the hat. I'm okay. I feel good. Where am I? And how do you know my name? As she checked him to make sure he was okay, Megumi said, my name is Megumi and I'm a doctor. You're here because you were hurt, but you do appear to be doing very well. Two big men in blue armor entered the room before Megumi could say anything more. They both carried long swords, which made Naruto a little frightened. Megumi-sama, Daimyo-sama wanted to be informed immediately once the young prince was awake, stated one of them. Very well, you may go and tell him. Let him know however that I must make sure that Naruto gets a small meal then takes his medicine before I bring him to the daimyo, Megumi replied. Before leaving the room, both men bowed and covered their hearts with their right fists. Megumi walked out of the room but came back soon after. When Megumi handed him a tray of appetizing looking food and instructed him to eat, Naruto's countless questions vanished. Megumi gave Naruto the nicest outfit he had ever owned after Naruto finished, which she believed was impossible. Megumi had to assist him in putting on the dark blue kimono. Naruto noticed that they were not in a building when Megumi took his hand and escorted him out of the room. As Naruto looked around, he noticed that there was water all around him and that the air smelled strongly of salt. Men dressed in the same armor as the other two who had initially entered Naruto's room surrounded Megumi and Naruto. He was quite perplexed when he saw how many of them bowed to Naruto as he passed. Naruto tugged on Megumi's sleeve and asked, where are we? And where are we going? Look, we're here, she said, indicating the door that a man in armor was opening for them. We are on a ship, Naruto, and we are going to meet some very important people that are very eager to meet you. Naruto gripped Megumi's hand tighter as they entered. As they passed through the room, Naruto could see what appeared to be very nice paintings on the walls along with other expensive-looking items. Naruto looked forward and saw two people in front of him when Megumi stopped. The first was an elderly man sitting in a fancy-looking chair who reminded Naruto of the elderly man with the pointed hat. Although he was dressed nearly identically to Naruto, he was wearing a long white coat and a long beard, which Naruto felt compelled to wear for some reason. Naruto, who was still quite anxious, felt a little more at ease after the elderly man gave him a kind smile. The second man's cheek was scarred in the shape of an X, and he had long red hair. He wore a coat of white, just like the old man. Although his clothing is red and white rather than dark blue, it resembles that of Naruto and the elderly man. Instead of grinning, the man was staring at Naruto with a look in his eyes that made him a little afraid. It didn't make Naruto feel any better that he also carried a sword. Naruto, I would like to introduce you to Kenshin and Genryusai Uzumaki, Megumi responded. A bewildered Naruto questioned, but Uzumaki is my name. Why do they have the same name that I do? Genryusai was the one who responded, because you have the same name as your mother. His voice sounded almost desperate as he said, my mother? You know who my mother is? Can you tell me, please? Naruto had no prior knowledge of his parents. For an orphan like him, having a family one day was the most cherished dream, and now these people were aware of his mother's identity. He simply must have known. Getting up from his chair, Genryusai knelt down, put his hand on his grandson's shoulder, and gazed into his azure eyes. Your mother's name was Kushina Uzumaki, princess of the land of Whirlpool, wife to the 4th Hokage, and my precious daughter you, Naruto, are my grandson. I am your grandfather and my son here, he said while addressing Kenshin. He is your uncle, we are both your family. Naruto was shocked by what he had just heard. His father was the 4th Hokage, and his mother was a princess. And he finally had a family after living alone all his life. His blue eyes started to well up with tears of joy as he choked out, I have an F family? The grandson clung to Genryusai like a lifeline and sobbed uncontrollably as Genryusai held him in his arms. Yes, you have a family and you will never be alone again, I promise, and an Uzumaki never breaks a promise. Naruto eventually relaxed enough to talk after a few minutes without turning to face his grandfather. He whispered, "If you're my family, why was I in the orphanage? Didn't you want me?" Kenshin spoke before Genryusai could respond. "Never believe that for a second, Naruto. We were lied to by the Leaf Village. We were told that you had died with your parents. Had we known you were alive, there would have been no force on this earth that would have stopped us from bringing you home to Whirlpool." Naruto turned to face the man he had come to recognize as his uncle. He no longer frightened Naruto, and his eyes had a softer appearance. Naruto didn't really care at the moment, but he didn't know why the village claimed he was dead. Naruto had never been happier because he had a family at last and they loved him. Naruto asked, "Can you tell me about my mom?" Genryusai put Naruto on his lap and said, "Of course we can, Naruto-kun." As Naruto gave him his full attention, he said, "We can tell you anything you want to know about her." As the daimyo started telling the young boy everything about his mother, Megumi watched with a tender smile as he, too, listened to his father talk about his beloved sister. She could see that even Kenshin had forgotten his cold, emotionless mask. The newly acquainted Uzumaki family was left to enjoy the very private moment by themselves when Megumi quietly and slowly left the room. Naruto's next few days passed quickly. He was with his grandfather most of the time, and occasionally with his uncle. Despite the fact that his uncle Kenshin seemed to be constantly upset about something, Naruto truly enjoyed his family. Megumi was also very popular with Naruto. She was always kind to him, even though she made him take his medication, which tasted awful. Naruto had been hearing a lot of stories from his grandfather about his new home in Whirlpool country and about his mother. Naruto was eager to arrive. According to his grandfather, they would be there in a few hours. Additionally, Naruto's grandfather informed him that he would learn both ninja and samurai techniques as a prince of Whirlpool. Being a samurai was cool, but Naruto had always wanted to be a ninja. According to Naruto's grandfather and a few of the samurai aboard the ship, Naruto's mother was extremely strong and had received training in both arts. The samurai were also quite awesome, although Naruto was still averse to being referred to as Naruto-sama or Uzumaki-sama. His grandfather explained that it was a way for them to respect him in the Uzumaki family, and that since he would be hearing it frequently throughout his life, he might as well get used to it. "Naruto, hey grandpa," Naruto said as he turned to see his grandfather entering his room. "Did you enjoy your meal?" With a grin that split his whiskers, Naruto exclaimed, "Yes, it was amazing." "What was that anyway?" "It was the best thing I ever eaten." Genryusai laughed as he said, "I had a feeling you would like ramen. It was your mother's favorite food too. Did you take the medicine Megumi-chan left for you? Or does she need to give you another shot?" Naruto shook his head at a blurring speed, his face turning very pale. Naruto refused to take the repulsive medication a few days ago. "That's okay," Megumi said with a cunning smile, but before Naruto could rejoice, she shot him in the arm. That needle hurt a lot. Naruto never complained about taking his medication after that, and his grandfather enjoyed making fun of him for it. "No, I took my medicine. Promise." "Good," Genryusai said, stroking his grandson's hair. "Now come. We are almost at Luca port. From there, we will take a carriage to Iandril, and from there, we will ride horses to the people's palace." "Why don't we take the carriage to the palace?" "Because the people of Whirlpool want to see their new prince. The people loved your mother and I'm sure they will love you too. Now come. We have to get ready." Many locals had heard of the arrival and had gone to meet their loved ones when the Whirlpool fleet arrived to cheering crowds. For Naruto, it was a bizarre experience. Throughout his brief life, Naruto had been hated and mistreated. However, as the carriage passed, these people clapped and cheered, and Naruto would occasionally stick his head out the window, making the cheering even louder. There were applauding crowds on either side of the Great Uzumaki Bridge as they drove across it, but nothing could have prepared Naruto for what he saw when they arrived at the end and mounted the horses. Naruto received one of the greatest surprises of his life as they passed the enormous gates, which were guarded by a samurai to keep the crowd at bay. Naruto saw his new home for the first time as a samurai led his horse, with his grandfather and uncle at either side. It was enormous. Comparing it to the Leaf Village, Naruto could see that it was nearly limitless. The most shocking thing, though, was that the city's residents cheered for the Uzumaki as they passed by, and there was a loud explosion of joyful voices. At first, Naruto felt anxious and even afraid whenever he had witnessed a crowd this enthusiastic. They were always attempting to harm him. However, these folks waved, cheered, and grinned at him in front of them. The people threw flowers as they moved through the city. Naruto started to wave and smile back at everyone. Sporting his signature grin, Naruto's grandfather spoke to him as the Uzumaki and their escort came to a halt in front of the palace gates. "Welcome to the people's palace, welcome home." If it's possible, Naruto's smile got bigger when he heard that only, "I'm home," was Naruto's statement. At last, Whirlpool's heir was at home during the night of the Uzumakis' return to Whirlpool. The city of Aidendril celebrated Naruto was given his first royal feast and met a number of significant political figures. He could eat as much as he wanted, so even though he didn't understand much of what was said, he still had fun. Naruto was taken to the royal council room on his second day at his new residence. He was shown to the vacant seat on his grandfather's left as soon as he walked into the room, opposite his uncle, who was seated on his grandfather's right. With a smile, Naruto said, "Hey, Grandpa, Uncle Kenshin." His grandfather smiled in response, and his uncle nodded in acknowledgement. "Good morning, Naruto-kun." He pointed to the various people seated around the table and said, "So, why do you need to see me? And who are all these people?" "They are some of my most trusted captains of the Guardian Corps. Everyone in this room, your uncle and me included, will all become your teachers in the different areas of study you will be learning over the next few years." Naruto questioned, "All of them? Why that many different teachers?" The people in the room laughed when Naruto asked that question. "Because Naruto, you are the future ruler and leader of Whirlpool. It will be your responsibility to guide and protect the people of our nation. You must always remember, Naruto, it isn't the people that serve us but we as their leaders that serve them, and to be able to be a good leader you will need to learn many different things. We will help you to learn by teaching you some of our expertises," said Genryu Sai as he addressed the audience. Hearing that made Naruto sit up a bit more. Then, before turning back to his grandfather, he glanced at the others seated around the table. "I promise to do my best, Grandpa." Genryu Sai gave him a smile. "That's all we will ever ask of you, Naruto. Now, I will be teaching you the art of sealing, as well as politics and economics. Your Uncle Kenshin will be teaching you Kenjutsu and more importantly the hidden Mitsurugi style of our clan. When you are ready, he will also be teaching you how to use our bloodline." "What's a bloodline? And how do you use it?" excited Naruto inquired. In what Naruto quickly dubbed his grumpy voice, because he always looked angry when he spoke in that manner, Kenshin replied, "I will teach you everything when the time comes, Naruto." Genryu Sai pointed to the man seated next to Kenshin and said, "Now I think we should let your new teachers introduce themselves and tell you what they will be teaching you. Why don't we start with you, Sano?" He was tall, slender, and muscular. His name was Sano. His black hair was long and spiky, and he wore a red headband that extended past his shoulders. Around his forehead Sano had white bandages wrapped around his right hand and stomach, and he was dressed in white pants. He had a long white coat like his grandfather's and uncle's, but he didn't wear a shirt either. Sano's coat featured the taijutsu kanji on the back and a black trim. Sano smiled and responded, "The name is Sanosuke Sagara, don't forget it, kid. I'm your uncle's best friend even if the sourpuss refuses to admit it in public." The sourpuss gave Sano a death glare for this, which only made him smile more. "Like your grandfather and your uncle, I'm a member of the Roku Kyoshu. I hold the code for taijutsu. I will be teaching you taijutsu, which includes your own family style that I was honored to be allowed to learn. I will also be in charge of you physical strength and stamina training, so I hope you're ready for me to work your tiny body to the ground," he said while keeping his grin on his face. When he called him small, Naruto glared at him and appeared even more determined to put in his best effort. The lone woman in the room was the next to introduce herself. She was a fairly tall, attractive young lady with a well-proportioned chest and a strikingly curvaceous figure. She had waist-length, raven black hair tied in a high ponytail, and she appeared to be in her early 20s. Her eyes were light purple, and her skin was peach. She was dressed in a tiny pink kimono that did little to conceal her stunning figure and long purple stockings. She had a Suba-less nodashi strapped to her back with bandages wrapped around the hilt for improved grip, and she wore chainmail underneath her kimono. "My name is Shigeru Kosuke. I am the captain of the Spy and Intelligence Network. I will be in charge here of stealth and weapons training," she said in a monotone voice. The young man seated in front of her turned to talk to Naruto when it became clear that the Shigeru would not go on. He appeared to be in his late teens and was the youngest man in the room. He wore square-lensed glasses and had black hair that reached his chin. He was dressed entirely in white, complete with a mantle, long-sleeve shirt, and white pants. The stripes on his sleeves and the blue cross on the collar of his shirt were the only colors he wore. "My name is Uryu Ishida. I'm the head of the Ishida clan and captain of the Archer Division of the Guardian Corps. I'm also in charge of the defenses of the city's outer wall. I will be instructing you in tactics and strategy." A young man in his early 20s was the next to introduce himself. He had red hair, 2 long forelocks on each shoulder, and the rest on his back. His eyes were bright green. The man looked like an Uzumaki, so Naruto assumed he might be related. He had a red sash tied around his waist and was dressed in a dark blue martial arts outfit with red trim. My name is Kurama Minamino. I am the captain of the Hunter and Tracking Division of the Guardian Corps. If anyone commits a crime against Whirlpool and somehow escapes, it's my team's job to hunt them down and return them here so they can be punished. I will be one of 2 teachers that will instruct you in ninjutsu and chakra control. The other will be this man sitting next to me, stated Kurama as he pointed to the shorter individual seated next to him. Kurama and the man in question were about the same age. If you ignored his long, black, spiky hair that defied gravity, he appeared to be less than 5 feet tall, making him the shortest of them all. He had blood-red eyes with an angular, slightly slanted shape that gave him a sinister appearance, and he wore a white headband on his forehead. He had on a long, black jacket with a white collar that looked like a cloak. He was wearing what appeared to be a black undershirt and black pants tucked into black combat boots. He appeared to be glaring at everyone in the room, and judging by the expression on his face, he didn't want to be here. He had a sword strapped to his back. Kurama gently prodded the man with his elbow when he didn't seem eager to talk, and the man eventually gave in and started talking. My name is Hiei. I'm the head of the Guardian Corps' assassination squad. If there is a threat to Whirlpool that can't be dealt with through peaceful means, my team and I terminate that threat. I will be helping Kurama teach you ninjutsu. The little man appeared to have no desire to assist Naruto at all, which made Naruto a little afraid of him. Don't worry about our vertically challenged friend, my prince. He's just not a people person. The man at the end of the table, who was now receiving a death glare from Hiei, caught everyone's attention. The man continued to laugh as a result, which infuriated Hiei even more. The tall, fair-skinned man had gray eyes that were currently giddy with laughter. He had disheveled light blonde hair that framed his face on the sides and between his eyes, and he appeared to be in his 30s. His eyes were shaded by a bucket hat with stripes of green and white and traditional wooden sandals. A black coat with a black diamond pattern on the bottom half was worn over his dark green shirt and pants. He held what appeared to be a closed fan in one hand and a walking cane in the other. My name is Kazuki Urahara, but you can just call me Urahara like everyone else. My prince, I am the head of the Research and Development Division of the Guardian Corps. I will be teaching you history, science, literature, and philosophy as well as anything else that strikes me at the time, Urahara said while raising his arms. Although Naruto wasn't sure how he felt about his new teachers, he was certain that he would do everything in his power to please his family. Naruto grinned and nodded at his grandfather before heading out of the room. Great, we will start your training tomorrow morning. Naruto, for now, you can take the rest of the day off. The conversation about Naruto's training went on between Genryusai and the others. There were conflicting reactions in the Leaf Village when they learned of Naruto's true ancestry and his departure. The civilian populace refused to accept that the demon was the 4th Hokage's son and was living in total denial. The news was taken as gospel by the ninja populace, at least those from established clans, who were incensed that it had been kept a secret from them. The majority of ninja had not been overtly hostile toward the boy, but they also did nothing to assist him. They became ill after realizing that they had been allowing the civilians to torture the 4th Hokage's son without consequence. The Hyuga household turned into a terrible place after the elders informed the members of the main house about the agreement with the Uzumaki. The fact that Hiashi would voluntarily turn over the Byakugan to another clan infuriated the members of the main branch. However, they were unable to stop the arrangement without igniting a blood feud with the Uzumaki. Regardless of how much they complained, the main house members were also displeased because Hinata was now the most significant member of the Hyuga clan in the village's eyes, and they could no longer openly mock or insult her for failing. Now that the village was aware of Naruto's ancestry, Hana and Hiashi couldn't be happier because both of their kids were safe from the clan elders. Although there was disagreement in the village regarding the veracity of that information, everyone agreed that the Hyuga was crucial in putting an end to the conflict with Whirlpool because they all understood Hinata's significance to the village. The adults now treated her with the utmost respect whenever she appeared in public due to her parents' desire to wait until she was enrolled in the academy. Hinata herself had not been informed of her impending marriage. At the moment, Hinata was waiting for her father to come so she could begin her lesson in the Hyuga clan's private dojo. When she saw her parents enter, she was a little taken aback. Hinata said, "Hello, mother, father." The words, "Good morning, honey," were spoken by Hana. Hiashi said, "Good morning, Hinata. Are you ready to begin your lesson, honey?" "Yes, mother," Hinata said with a smile to her mother. "Hinata, you will be starting the academy in 2 years. Because of recent developments, your mother will be taking over your training when I am unable to do so. You are of great importance to the clan and to the village. I'm sure you have noticed that people are nicer to you or treat you differently than before. I know you wish to know why that is, but you will have to wait until your 7th birthday for us to tell you. I want you to remember that no matter what anyone might tell you, you are first and foremost our daughter and nothing will ever change that," Hiashi said. "Your father is right, Hinata. Some people may treat you differently, but we will always treat you as our daughter first, and as a Hyuga second we will always love and be proud of you no matter what, so while we will ask you to train and study hard, we don't want you to feel that you always have to be the best to make us proud of you. Do you understand, honey? Yes, mother. Thank you for believing in me, your mother, and I will always believe in you, Hinata. Now let's begin our training session. Yes, father. Naruto is eager to start his training in Whirlpool even though he had a lot to learn. He was committed to doing his best to please his family. Naruto was taken to one of the many private training rooms in the palace, but he was taken aback to see his grandfather there rather than Sano, who was supposed to start his physical training before starting to learn from the other instructors. Naruto asked in confusion, "Grandpa? What are you doing here? I thought I was going to train with Sano-sensei." Genri Usai gave his grandson a smile. "You will be. But before you do, it's time that you receive something that every Uzumaki receives once they begin their training to become warriors of Whirlpool. It is one of the Uzumaki clan's most guarded secrets. A secret that has been passed down generation to generation since the founding of the Uzumaki clan." After hearing that, Naruto sat up a little. He didn't want to let his grandfather down because he knew that whatever he was about to receive was extremely significant. According to Genri Usai, "I promised to let your uncle teach you about our Kenjutsu style, but what you need to know is that there is a reason why the Uzumaki are the only ones that can truly master the hidden Mitsurugi style. In the past many have tried to steal the secrets of our fighting style, but even those who have managed to discover some of our secrets have never harnessed the true strength of the hidden Mitsurugi style." Naruto inquired, "Why is that, grandpa?" "Because Naruto, the hidden Mitsurugi style was created by the founder of our clan to be used only by our clan, and he made sure that nobody but an Uzumaki could truly master it. I will let your uncle tell you the reason, since I promised him he would be the one to teach you of our bloodline and Kenjutsu style. What I will show you today is one of the reasons why we are the only ones that can master the hidden Mitsurugi." An excited Naruto said, "Okay grandpa, what do I need to do first?" "Oh, that's easy, Naruto. You just need to take off your clothes," replied Genri Usai. Naruto screamed, What? Why?" and gripped his training kimono tightly, as though it would suddenly vanish. Genri Usai laughed, anticipating the young blonde's response. He rolled up one of his sleeves and focused chakra on his arm, saying, "This is the reason why." Naruto observed as his grandfather's arm started to develop a number of markings that glowed brightly. Although Naruto was unaware of their meaning, he was certain that they were seals because he had heard that his family was well known for being seal masters. Naruto began asking questions quickly, saying things like, "Wow, what are those, grandpa? They're so cool looking. Am I going to get that? Will I look that cool too?" Genri Usai allowed the seals to disappear by cutting off the chakra supply to his arm. "Those Naruto or the Uzumaki clan's gravity seals?" Naruto questioned, "Gravity seals? What do they do?" "They act much like weights in the way that they add resistance to help strengthen your body, except that unlike weights which only add resistance to certain parts of your body, the gravity seals distribute the added resistance evenly throughout your entire body. The seals never need to be replaced, and you can control the resistance they add to your body at will without needing to waste time to remove any equipment from yourself." "That's so cool. So does everybody have them?" "No, Naruto. Sano is the only person besides me and your uncle who possesses these. This is because, despite his infrequent displays, your uncle views him as a brother in all but blood." "Yeah, Sano-sensei really likes to make Uncle Kenshin mad," replied Naruto. "Yes, he certainly does. Okay, Naruto, let's get started. We don't want to waste any more time than necessary because it will take a while to finish." Naruto said, "Okay, grandpa," and started to remove his kimono. A few hours later, Naruto, who was clearly having trouble walking, left the room with his grandfather. "Your body will need a few days to get used to the seals. It appears that the seals are receiving more chakra than I anticipated due to your extensive chakra reserves. Your physical training for the next few days will have to be cancelled. Instead, you will start your academic training, and we will resume the full training program once the seals are no longer an issue for you." Naruto replied, "I guess you're right, grandpa. I'm exhausted. I'll let Urahara know to expect you after lunch, and Uryu to expect you in an hour after dinner. I'll start teaching you the fundamentals of calligraphy and sealing." As he staggered off, still struggling to walk with the new seals in place, Naruto said, "Okay grandpa, I'll see you later." His two samurai guards walked beside him to ensure the young prince didn't hurt himself by falling. Uryu was waiting for Naruto at his desk when he entered his office. "Oh, Naruto, you're here. How do you feel?" "According to what I've been told, applying gravity seals can be extremely physically demanding." "I'm fine, Uryu-sensei. I'm still getting used to the seals, but I'm doing better now," replied Naruto. Uryu led Naruto to a small table with two chairs facing each other and said, "Great, come here so we can begin." After they were seated, Naruto inquired, "So, sensei, what sort of training are we going to do today?" Uryu replied, "We're going to play a game." Bewildered, Naruto said, "I thought you were going to teach me strategy?" "Yes, I am, and we're going to start with a game later on. We will examine more complex forms, but for now, we will begin with mental development games." "What sort of games are we going to play?" Naruto inquired. "Among other games, we'll be playing chess, go, and shogi to help you practice your strategy. We will read and examine books and scrolls later. We play for the time being." The following few hours were spent with Naruto learning the rules of shogi and playing a few games with him. Naruto initially struggled, but he began to understand why these games would help him develop his strategic skills. Even though he lost every game, Uryu had been impressed with Naruto's ability to understand the game's concept, telling him that he had a very unpredictable mind and that it would help him later on when he was creating stratagems against his enemies. The next lesson Naruto had was with Urahara, who was supposed to begin with a history lesson on the 5 great nations, but since Naruto was illiterate, Urahara began teaching him the alphabet and number system, which would take a little longer for him to learn academically. But Urahara didn't mind because he enjoyed teaching the young prince. Naruto clearly had a quick mind and picked things up quickly, but it was difficult to keep him focused because he was prone to boredom and lose interest. Urahara quickly discovered that threatening to ask Megumi to give Naruto a shot if he continued to nod off during a lesson worked incredibly well. Urahara didn't care how Naruto learned his lessons. In his opinion, fear of punishment was just as effective as eagerness for knowledge. "Grandpa, how about this one?" As he displayed his most recent attempt at the calligraphy technique his grandfather was teaching him, Naruto asked. "Naruto, that's better. Try. Again, you're still using too much pressure on the brush. So try writing it more neatly this time. Your work will look much better if you let it flow on the paper." "But I've done it like 100 times, and they all look the same to me," said Naruto. "Naruto, sealing is a very complex art. You won't learn it in a day or two. I have been training in sealing for decades. I am considered the best seal master in the world, and even I learn new things about sealing all the time," stated Genryusai. "Really?" inquired a skeptic Naruto. "Yes, Naruto. You see, sealing is like no other ninja art. With sealing you're only as limited as your imagination. That is why sealing is so feared in battle. With sealing you can do just about anything your mind can conjure. Now it's not an easy process by any means. Even the tiniest mistakes can have horrific results. That is why we practice and practice. Even I practice every day so my skills stay sharp. You mustn't be dissuaded from it so easily, Naruto. You're an Uzumaki after all. Sealing is in your blood. Now go ahead and try it again. If you do it perfectly by the end of our lesson I will let you have as much ramen as you can eat tomorrow, okay?" Naruto exclaimed, "All right, I'll have it down for sure, Grandpa." Believe it, as he went back to work with newfound energy. Genryusai could only laugh at how much Naruto resembled his mother on the outside. He might resemble his father, but on the inside, he was entirely Kushina and Uzumaki. Naruto had been in Whirlpool for 3 months, and his family was quite pleased with him. With his seemingly limitless energy and perpetually cheerful demeanor, the little blonde boy revitalized the palace and its occupants. He was a good-natured and industrious child who was grateful for everything he had now because he had nothing growing up. The residents of Whirlpool had mixed reactions to the news that trade would be resumed with Fire Country and, consequently, the Leaf Village. The news of the Leaf's treatment of the new prince of Whirlpool spread like wildfire throughout Aidendril, just as Kenshin had suspected. The overwhelming majority of the military and civilian population were incensed, and word soon got out to all of Whirlpool's allies, who sent the majority of their business elsewhere to show their disapproval of the Leaf Village. The Leaf suffered political and financial setbacks as a result of numerous countries pressuring the Fire Daimyo to maintain stricter control over the village. The only apparent advantage for the Leaf Village was that the economy of Fire Country was expanding due to the resumption of trade with Whirlpool, which prevented the Leaf Village from being in as dire a situation as it might have been. A little blonde boy was frantically escaping through the People's Palace corridors back in Whirlpool. He rushed in their direction as soon as he spotted 2 Guardian Corps standing guards. He yelled angrily at them, "Please, you have to help me. She is trying to kill me." Just as a pair of shuriken embedded themselves in the ground the blonde boy had just occupied a moment before, he vanished in a yellow blur before either of the guards could react. Naruto was frantically trying to escape the evil monster that was after him. The People's Palace, unfortunately for Naruto, was a labyrinth of corridors and chambers where one could easily become disoriented if one did not know where they were going in his hurry to escape. Naruto failed to pay attention and stumbled into a dead-end hallway. As Naruto turned to run back the way he had come, a threatening shadow materialized around the corner. "No, no, no, no. I have to get away," he exclaimed. Several people, Naruto's teachers, laughed heartily when they heard the ear-splitting scream that reverberated throughout the entire space. When Genri Usai heard the terrified scream in his office, he looked up from his papers. Before deciding to see how Naruto's training was going, he remarked, "That was Naruto, it must be Tuesday already." Genri Usai only needed to follow the screams to locate Naruto. It wasn't difficult. He saw Shiger hurling shurikens at Naruto, who was frantically attempting to dodge them, and sure enough, it was Tuesday. Genri Usai approached Shiger and inquired, "Ah, Shiger-chan, how is Naruto's training going?" "Good," was her monotone response, and she didn't even look at him or pause her task when Naruto saw his grandfather. He yelled for assistance. "Grandpa, please help me. She's crazy." Inquiring, "What kind of training are you working on right now?" "Exactly." Genri Usai turned back to Shiger. She responded by dodging, while she kept throwing shurikens at Naruto. Genri Usai turned and went to finish his paperwork, saying, "I see, carry on." However, he did not miss Naruto's irate cry of, "What?" and he simply laughed as he went. He was certain that Shiger wouldn't harm Naruto. At least not severely. Naruto ended up in Megumi's office later that day to have his wounds examined. Megumi always liked to make sure Naruto was completely healed after any injury, even though Shiger only gave him small cuts, and by the time he arrived, the fox had mostly healed those. "I'm telling you, Megumi-sensei, Megumi has been teaching him about medicine and healing, but only when he has free time. Not as an official teacher." Naruto still calls her sensei. "Shiger-sensei is going to kill me one of these days if she keeps throwing sharp weapons at me." "Come now, Naruto. I'm sure she's not that bad after all. You haven't actually gotten seriously hurt. You only have some small cuts, and those are almost done healing." Even though Shiger's training alarmed him, Naruto had to admit that she never truly harmed him. He complained, "Well, it still hurts a lot." "Well, you're fine now. Get yourself something to eat and rest before your next training session." "Okay, by the way, who is your next session with?" Megumi responded. "I have ninjutsu training with Kurama-sensei. He said that Hiei-sensei will be there this time, but he never shows up though." "Well, maybe he'll show up this time. I guess, I'll see you later, Megumi-sensei." Naruto shrugged, waving goodbye before heading out to grab a bite to eat. This is impossible," whined Naruto as he held 2 leaves to his hands and attempted to concentrate his chakra. "Calm down, Naruto. I know you're getting frustrated, but you're doing great," Kurama replied. "But it's been 3 months and I can't get the leaves to stick for more than a few seconds," said Naruto. "I told you that's only because you have so much more chakra than most people. You're actually doing better than I thought you would be. Just relax and remember what I have told you about chakra. Chakra is a combination of both spiritual and physical energy. To be in control of your chakra, you must be in control of both your mind and body," said Naruto. "Exactly, so clam your mind and try it again." "Yes, Kurama-sensei." Kurama looked back and spoke as Naruto carried on with his workout. "Are you going to stay there all day, or are you going to actually help since you actually showed up?" Hiei responded to him from behind a tree. "I don't see why you and the Daimyo insist on me being here. The boy had no chakra control, so you can't really think I can teach him anything. He has little control because of the fox. He is very sharp and works very hard too. If he didn't have the fox, he would certainly have amazing chakra control. It's only been 3 months and he can already do what even some of the kids in the ninja academies can't. I still think you're wasting your time. He has too much chakra. Having him try to use such a small amount is like trying to pick a grain of sand from a beach. You should focus on exercises that use more chakra to help him get better control," replied Hiei with a voice of frustration. That could work. Okay, I will get him started on tree climbing next time." "Whatever, I'm leaving. Don't ask me to come until he can actually learn some jutsu," Hiei replied. "I can't promise that. After all, you actually did help today," Kurama replied. Hiei was enraged by that. Since he was correct, why didn't he simply say nothing? They were going to force him to appear more now. Hiei continued to curse his misfortune as he left the training area. Naruto was panting and on his hands and knees. He had a contagious smile on his face despite his weariness over the past year and a half. He had frequently found himself in this predicament since arriving in Whirlpool. Naruto had undergone significant transformation. He was no longer the illiterate, malnourished, and half-starved 5-year-old that his family had discovered in the Leaf Village. Naruto had demonstrated that he inherited his father's sharp mind through good nutrition, exercise, and knowledgeable teachers. He was already far above any 5th-year academy student, possibly even some of the more recent genin. In less than 2 years, Naruto, on the other hand, had a very happy life with his family. It had not all been work since everyone in the city joined Naruto and his family in celebrating his first birthday. It really amounted to a citywide festival. Naruto had never been this joyful in his life. He cherished his new home, his teachers, and his family. That's enough for today, Naruto. Go get some rest before lunch. Naruto complained, but I can keep going, Sano-sensei. Sure you can, kid, but I'm not going to get chewed out by Megumi again for letting you get chakra exhaustion because we practiced too long. I swear I thought I was going to lose my hearing from all that yelling. Naruto grinned and scratched the back of his head. Yeah, I got yelled at too. Okay, I'll go get ready for lunch. I have kenjutsu training with Uncle Kenshin this afternoon anyway. Tell that sourpuss not to forget we have to go out drinking tomorrow night, Sano replied. Naruto halted his progress and pivoted. You really should stop trying to get my uncle to meet women every time you guys go on one of your nights out. He spends the next week even grumpier than usual and I end up getting the worst of that situation during our sparring sessions. Sano smiled and said, at least they're still wooden swords, right? Yes, complained Naruto. I keep telling him I'm ready for a real katana but he won't budge. I'm sure he's got his reasons, just give him some time, kid. It's not like you need to carry a sword around at your age anyway. Naruto let out a sigh. Naruto turned and fled the training area, saying, I guess I'll see you later, Sano-sensei. The other two Uzumaki clan members were holding a crucial meeting at a different area of the People's Palace. Kenshin questioned, are you sure it's time for that, father? Yes, Hinata-chan will have her 7th birthday in 2 months. She will start the ninja academy in 4 months. I don't think we can afford to wait to tell him any longer, said Genryu Sai. Kenshin frowned and said, will you make him go to her birthday? You know he won't like going back there, even if it's just for a day or two. I don't believe that would be a good idea. I have invited Hana-chan and her family for a visit so the children can meet each other. They will be here the week after Hinata's birthday, and they will spend a few weeks here before they return to the Leaf Village so Hinata can start the academy. So they will be here for Naruto's birthday celebration. Well, I suppose we can only hope for the best then. If you excuse me, I have to prepare for Naruto's lesson. Ah, yes, today you start teaching him about our bloodline, right? Yes, I think his chakra control is good enough that we can start. I think he is ready, replied Kenshin. Very well, son. Make sure to bring him here once your training is finished so we can tell him about the arrangement with the Hyuga. Yes, father. Kenshin walked out of the room to wait for Naruto without saying anything more. Naruto arrived at the training ground in a state of excitement. They were going to begin special training today, as his uncle had promised. Naruto was sick of practicing with wooden training swords and fervently hoped that he would eventually receive a real katana. To his annoyance, Naruto discovered that his uncle had brought the customary practice swords when he arrived at the clearing and was standing in the middle of it. Naruto was about to begin griping about it when he was abruptly attacked. Suddenly, Naruto noticed 2 bright white chains with spikes pointing in his direction. Naruto could only dodge them due to his intense training, but the chains persisted in attacking him as if they had a mind of their own. The sharp ends of the chains would try to stab him like snakes as they struck him. Naruto had had enough after a few near misses that resulted in some minor injuries. Naruto shouted, "Water style, tidal shield jutsu," and began to demonstrate some well-practiced hand signals. A circular water shield appeared in front of Naruto just as the chains were ready to impale him. Halting their unrelenting assault, breathing heavily from the effort, Naruto released the jutsu after he was certain the attack was over. He yelled, "What the hell was that?" at his uncle, who had remained where he had seen him when Naruto had arrived. Kenshin calmly stated, "That was a secret jutsu that only an Uzumaki can perform. It is a jutsu that can only be used with our bloodline." When Naruto finally understood that the unique training his uncle had been discussing was training in his clan's bloodline, a smile quickly appeared on his face. "So you're finally going to tell me about our bloodline?" "Yes, but before I begin, why don't you tell me what you know about bloodlines in general?" Before speaking, Naruto approached his uncle and sat down on the ground. "Well, Urahara-sensei told me about them a while ago. He said there were several types of bloodlines, but there are 3 main types. There are Dujutsu like the Sharingan that the Uchiha clan has, or the Byakugan that the Hyuga clan has. Both clans are from the Leaf Village," he said with obvious disdain when he mentioned Leaf. Dujutsu or ocular jutsu that enhances the user's eyesight. Each one has different capabilities that are unique to each other. Kenshin gave a head nod. "That's correct, and next?" "The next type is the elemental manipulation bloodlines. They are the most common because many clans have them. Some of the best known are the wood-using Senju clan from the Leaf Village. But there are others like the ice users of Water Country or the coal and lava users of Earth Country. I also heard that Wind Country has people that can use glass as a weapon." "Very good, Naruto, and what is the last?" "The last type are the body manipulation bloodlines. Those are the bloodlines that enhances or manipulate your body in some way or another. Water Country has several like the Kagaya clan that can manipulate their bones. Earth Country has a clan that can turn their skin into granite, and I heard that Lightning Country has a clan that can transform into dragon-like creatures." "That's correct. I see that Urahara has been teaching you well. Naruto exclaimed, so which of the 3 types do we have? Neither of them, was Kenshin's response. Naruto made a face fault. What do you mean we don't have either of them? He cried before getting to his feet. Our bloodline is unique, Naruto, and it doesn't fit in any of those categories, replied Kenshin. Naruto appeared to calm down. Okay, so what exactly is our bloodline and what does it do? Our bloodline is chakra-based, but it isn't an elemental bloodline. You see, the Uzumaki clan has very special chakra. Our chakra is different, more potent than everyone else's chakra. This gives us unique abilities. Our bloodline makes our bodies stronger and more resilient than others. It gives us large chakra reserves and highly increased stamina. Our bloodline also increases our longevity and our healing ability. It's one of the reasons why we can use gravity seals while any normal person would never be able to. Their bodies are not as strong as ours. That's why nobody but an Uzumaki can truly master the hidden Mitsurugi style. Because it places too much stress on one's body. Even if they can imitate the moves, their bodies can't handle the strain. That's correct, Naruto. We will go into that later on. The other part of our bloodline is that because our chakra is so potent we can focus it to create weapons like the chains you saw when you got here. Yeah, those were pretty cool. Those are a special jutsu that will be a priority for you to learn because it will help you control that. Naruto covered his stomach with his hand. Shortly after his birthday, he had been informed of his burden. Naruto now understood why the Leaf Village residents detested him. He was initially unsure of his feelings and detested being compelled to serve as the fox's vessel, but he also understood that, as an Uzumaki, he was his only option. He didn't despise his father for giving him the fox, but he also didn't worship him as much as he had in the village. According to Naruto, his mother was the previous host and she had no trouble managing the fox like his mother. Naruto vowed to resist the fox's influence and develop his strength independently of the Nine Tails' power. Naruto said resolutely, I understand, uncle, I will try my best. Kenshin said, then let's get started. Over the course of the following few hours, Kenshin gave Naruto all the information he could about the Uzumaki bloodline and started teaching him how to concentrate and manage his chakra so that he could use it for Uzumaki-style ninjutsu. Naruto ended up meeting with his grandfather and uncle later that evening since both of them had serious expressions on their faces. Well, his uncle always had a serious expression on his face, but it was extremely unusual for his grandfather. Naruto knew it was something significant. With an authoritative, regal tone, Genryusai said, Naruto, I have brought you here today to tell you something very important not only for the Uzumaki clan, but for all of Whirlpool. Since his grandfather was speaking to him in the same tone he would use when he hosted visiting dignitaries or nobles, Naruto was certain that this was a significant matter. As you know, you will one day be the Daimyo of Whirlpool and it will be your duty to guard and protect the people of our country. Yes, grandfather, was Naruto's response, and you know that as the leaders of our people, sometimes we must make sacrifices for the good of those people. Naruto felt uneasy, but he wasn't sure where his grandfather was taking this. Yes, grandfather, sometimes we must do what is necessary for the good of the people even if you don't like what you have to do for it, replied Naruto. Genryusai could only hope that he would find happiness with Hinata one day. As he gazed into his grandson's eyes, Naruto being stuck in a loveless marriage is the last thing Genryusai would want for him. He had promised that Naruto would wed Hinata as his daughter would have desired, and an Uzumaki never breaks his word, or dies trying. So it was too late to change his mind, Genryusai said gravely. Then there is something I have to tell you, Naruto. If his grandfather's tone of voice was any indication, Naruto was now extremely concerned that whatever he had to tell him would be bad news. Only once, when his grandfather told him about the nine-tailed fox, had Naruto witnessed his grandfather speaking to him in this manner. All Naruto could do was summon the courage to pose the query with a concerned tone. Naruto said, What do you have to tell me, grandfather? Taking a deep breath, Genryusai closed his eyes and prayed silently one last time that this would not destroy his grandson's life. When Genryusai opened his eyes, he met Naruto's gaze. Seeing Naruto nod, Genryusai went on. Before your mother died, she was best friends with her former teammate, Hana Hyuga. Do you remember I told you about her? Kushina and Hana were more like sisters, and even I looked at Hana as a second daughter. They were friends since they were children after all. I have seen her in some of my mother's old photos. Anyone I have asked has told me Hana Hyuga is a very kind and caring person, Naruto said, unsure of the reason behind their conversation. Yes, she is a very kind person. Your mother loved her very much. So much that when she found out that Hana was pregnant with her first child, your mother was determined to get pregnant herself. Your father agreed as he too wanted to start a family, and a month later she was pregnant with you. Wow, I had no idea, Naruto said, blinking in surprise since he had never heard of any of that. Kenshin then made the decision to voice his opinions. When my sister and Hana were both pregnant, they agreed to have each other as the godmother to the other's child. That makes Hana Hyuga your godmother, and Kushina would have been godmother to Hana's daughter Hinata. I see, Naruto said, still unsure of the direction of this. And when your parents found out that Hana and her husband were having a girl while they were having a boy, they made a very important decision, a decision involving you. As Naruto feared his grandfather's words, his chest constricted. Genri Usai waited for Naruto's response after saying, your parents wanted to unite both families, by arranging a marriage between yourself and Hana's daughter Hinata. There was nothing Naruto could do but sit in stunned silence. Had his parents arranged for him to marry someone? Yes, Urahara had told him about them. Although he was aware that noble families frequently practiced them, he was still shocked that his parents had put him in one. He has never met the woman he was supposed to marry. Naruto felt that his parents had betrayed him. The fact that his parents clearly loved one another was one of his favorite things about them. You could sense the love they had for one another from any of the photos of them together, looking at his wife the way his father looked at his mother, and having his wife look at him the way his mother looked at his father, were things Naruto hoped to achieve for himself in the future. Now, though, that is unlikely to occur. Naruto felt his eyes begin to water. I see, Naruto, finding it difficult to speak, said, I understand, grandfather, and I will perform my duty to the clan if that is all. May I be excused? It hurt Genri Usai to see the sad expression on his grandson's normally joyful face. He was aware that Naruto would require some time to process his emotions. Yes, you may, Naruto. Hinata and her family will be joining us in 2 months. They will be here so that the two of you can begin to know each other. Naruto nodded to his grandfather before heading to his room, not feeling confident enough to use his voice. Give him some time, father. He will be sad for a while, but he'll be back to his old self before you know it. He is my sister's son after all. He has her strength in him, replied Kenshin. I hope you're right, son. I don't like to see him like this. All we can do is try to help him in any way we can. Knowing that they would have to wait 2 months to see how Naruto and Hinata interacted, Genri Usai replied, yes, I suppose that is all we can do for now. All he could hope for was a successful first meeting. After returning to the Leaf Village, the following 2 months passed quickly, and Hinata's 7th birthday finally arrived. For the Hyuga clan, it was a significant day. The clan had seen a number of positive changes over the previous 2 years. Hiashi had been steadfastly advocating for the unification of the main house of the Hyuga and the branch house, knowing that the elders had to be cautious around him due to his alliance with the Uzumaki. Even though it was moving slowly, Hiashi had the branch house's full support, even though his nephew continued to treat the main house with disdain. Over the past 2 years, Hinata had also changed. She was not the terrified child who would cling to her mother's leg whenever they left the compound, though she was still a little bashful around strangers. Hinata was improving in her study of the gentle fist style and was happier and more self-assured than before. The whole branch house, apart from Neji, adored Hinata. Even though she was still despised by the elders and the majority of the main house, Hinata loved spending time with her entire family. So she was thrilled about her birthday because her parents were going to break some big news to her. This year was more exciting. The actual party was a highly formal affair. Numerous clan heads and their kids paid a visit. Hinata knew a few of the kids but wasn't particularly close to them because she didn't spend much time outside the compound. She was finally old enough to enroll in the academy this year, so that was going to change. Some of the kids she had met would be in her year when it began. In 2 months, Hinata loved her party this year. She loved playing, chatting, and interacting with children her own age. She was asked to meet her parents in the council room after the guests had departed. Hinata's parents were waiting for her when she got there, sitting in the center of the room with what appeared to be a gift in front of them. Hiashi gestured for Hinata to sit in front of them, saying, please sit, there is something of great importance that we need to speak to you about. She sat down and said, yes, father. As Hana pushed the exquisitely wrapped box toward Hinata, she said, first of all, honey, we have one last present for you. Hinata gave a little gasp as she cautiously opened the box. A stunning blue kimono the color of crystal clear ocean water was carefully packed inside the box, pure silk, with tiny whirlpools all over in a darker blue. It was clearly very expensive. It featured the Hyuga clan crest on the left shoulder and the red swirl worn by the Leaf Village ninja on the right. When Hinata touched the fabric lightly, she was struck by how soft it was. She had never seen a more exquisite kimono and was eager to wear it. According to Hinata, it's gorgeous, as she kept stroking the fabric. It's made from ember silk. Yes, I play WoW. Ember silk comes from the ember spider. It's a vicious spider that grows nearly 5 feet tall and is very dangerous. They are only found in a few small islands near Demon Country because of how dangerous it is to obtain and how beautiful the silk is. Ember silk is extremely expensive. That kimono is more than likely worth a fortune. Hana stated that she had seen Kushina wearing a made of ember silk for her big day. You didn't need to get this for me then, even though it is beautiful, replied Hinata. Your mother and I did not get this for you, Hinata. It was a present for you on the behalf of someone that you haven't met yet, replied Hiashi. Confused, Hinata questioned, but why would someone I have never met send me something so expensive? After exchanging glances, Hiashi started to explain after receiving a final affirmative nod from Hana. Hinata, you are my eldest daughter, and your mother and I both love you more than you can possibly imagine. You have a gentle, kind, and loving heart, and we love you for it. However, there are many within our clan that mistake your kindness for weakness. The clan elders among those that feel this way, along with the majority of the main house of our clan. Being a bright youngster, Hinata was aware that the members of the main house disliked her and would frequently glare at her when they believed no one was watching. The glares were frequently not concealed from her by the elders. Because of this, after your sister was born 2 years ago, the elders demanded that you be removed as clan heir and be placed in the branch house. Hinata let out a gasp. Although she was aware of the elders' dislike for her, she never imagined it to be this severe. While they don't actually have the authority to force me to do it, they had enough support within the clan at the time to rip our family apart. It could have ended in a civil war within our clan. Your mother and I could not let that happen. But neither could we just let them place the seal on you. The idea of having that disgusting thing put on her forehead made Hinata tremble. That is when your mother came up with a plan to save both you and our clan. You see, before you were born, your mother was best friends with the wife of the 4th Hokage. When her mother mentioned Kushina Uzumaki Namikaze, Hinata grinned. Yes, I know, mother, and I visited Whirlpool country 2 years ago, replied Hinata. You visited Whirlpool for a very important reason, Hinata. Your mother loved her friends so much that when they found out that they were both pregnant, your mother with you, a girl, and Kushina with a boy, we made a choice for the good of the clan. Hinata felt her chest constrict, as though to warn her of impending danger. Hiashi, aware of the pain this would cause his daughter, said, we came to an agreement for a betrothal contract between you and the son of the 4th Hokage. Hinata was stunned by what she had just heard and could only ask, what? It was originally to unite the Hyuga and the Namikaze clans, but the day that their child was born was the day that the nine-tailed fox attacked the village. As you know, both the 4th Hokage and his wife died that day. The 3rd Hokage also announced to the village that their son had died at childbirth. But, Hiashi interrupted Hinata with, that was a lie, before continuing. Your mother and her sensei, along with 2 others, were there when the child was born, but the Hokage forbid us telling anyone. Whoever did would be killed for treason. Hinata questioned, why would he do that? I don't know, but I think it was in a misguided attempt to keep a promise to the 4th. No matter the reason, it turned out to be a huge mistake. Your mother and I tried to do what we could for the boy, even tried to adopt him into our clan. However, the Hokage and the village council blocked us at every turn. When the elders tried to force the seal on you, we knew we had no other choice than to go against the Hokage to save the both of you. Hinata asked, what do you mean, to save the both of his father? Because of a certain condition, the 4th son was mistreated and scorned by most of the village. He needed saving just as much as you. The only way to save both of you was to activate the betrothal contract, but to do that we needed the child's true identity to be known. The only way to do that without being charged with treason by the Hokage was to secretly tell his mother's family that he was alive. Hinata finally understood why she had been instructed not to speak of the trip to anyone. That's why we went to Whirlpool country, to tell his family, she said. Yes, and your mother's plan worked. The Uzumaki clan agreed to protect you by activating the contract. That is the reason why you were not placed in the branch house. That unfortunately also means that you will not be head of the clan, since you will be marrying the future Daimyo of Whirlpool country. Hinata's vision began to become blurry as tears began to well up in her eyes. She would be compelled to wed a stranger, in addition to never being able to realize her dream of bringing her family together. What if she was disliked by the Uzumaki? What if they shared the main house's hatred of her? Additionally, Whirlpool was far away. She would have to travel for several days to see her family. Unable to control herself, Hinata fled the council room and hurried to her own. Hana appeared to follow, but Hiashi intervened. Let her be. She needs some time to herself right now. There is nothing you can say that will make this look like it's not the end of the world. Let her be. And tomorrow, when she calms down, you can explain to her that we did this for her own good, and because we love her. Okay. It just breaks my heart to see her so sad, said Hana. Without saying another word, Hiashi and Hana walked out of the meeting room. I know, but this is many times better than the alternative. You could hear the quiet sobs coming from a heartbroken little girl's room that night in the Hyuga compound if you paid close attention. A group from the Hyuga clan, including a few Leaf representatives, traveled to Whirlpool country a few days after Hinata's birthday. Hinata's expression remained dejected despite her parents' best efforts to explain that this was what was best for her and that everything would turn out okay. No matter what her parents said, Hinata knew that her life was no longer her own, and she had come to terms with the fact that she could not change her fate regardless of her feelings. She would be expected to wed the person who was selected for her, the Uzumaki or a ninja clan themselves. So that would not be an issue for her. At least she was also aware that the majority of noble families did not permit their members to practice the ninja arts. The second time Hinata arrived at Luca port, things were very different. They were escorted to Aidendril by a full samurai squad this time. Whereas the last time they tried their best to avoid drawing attention to themselves, her first visit to Whirlpool was still off the record. So Hinata and her mother had to pretend that this was her first time there. The samurai leader moved forward to address the remaining Leaf members as they reached the dock. Welcome to Whirlpool. I am Sosuke Sagara, Captain of Squad 16 of the Infantry Division of the Guardian Corps. My squad is charged with escorting you to the People's Palace. If you follow us, we will lead you to the carriages that you will be traveling to the city in. The samurai escorted them from Luca port to the bridge after everyone had been seated in their carriages. The enormous bridge was still magnificent, and Hinata continued to be astounded by the enormous whirlpools that sounded the island. They simply appeared to be incredibly strong. When she first arrived, she was as astonished as many of the Leaf members who had never visited Whirlpool. After the group entered the city and passed the gates, Hinata once more became aware of how different this location was from the Leaf village. The largest city Hinata had ever heard of, and probably the largest in the world, was Aidendril. She saw that the city's residents appeared to be getting ready for a celebration of some kind. Many of the decorations that people were hanging featured the Uzumaki crest. Plazas were being set up with food and game stands, and everyone appeared content as they worked, grinning. Excuse me, Captain Sagara, is there some kind of festival that the city is getting ready for? Replied Hinata. No, Lady Hinata. The people are getting ready for Naruto-sama's birthday celebration. His birthday is tomorrow, and the people will celebrate it all day long and well into the night as well. This year will be even bigger than last year by the looks of it. I see. Have you met him, Naruto Uzumaki? I have not actually met him, only seen him in passing. Because he is so important to this country's future, he is kept near his family and his teachers. Oh, so you don't know what he's like then? The only information Hinata knew about the boy she would eventually wed was that he was the son of her mother's former teammate and the 4th Hokage. As I said, I have not actually met him myself, but I do know that you need not worry. Naruto-sama is a very kind and intelligent young man. He is also very hard worker. He is trained by some of the best captains in the Guardian Corps and never complains about how much work they make him do. I believe he will make a great leader someday. Perhaps once you get to know him, you will see that as well. Hinata silently considered what the captain had said for the remainder of the journey to the palace. If she was fortunate, her future husband might not be too awful. In addition to the fact that she had no other option, she was aware that her clan and the entire Leaf village expected her to do her best. The group was shown to their rooms upon their arrival at the People's Palace. They were escorted to the throne room after taking some time to rest, change into more formal attire, and freshen up. The Leaf Jonin, who represented the Hokage, was dressed in their usual uniform, while Hinata and the other Hyuga were dressed in traditional Hyuga robes. Hinata's heart began to race as the door opened. It was time. She could only hope that the next meeting would go well, because it was probably the most significant one in her life. Since learning of the arranged marriage 2 months ago, Naruto had not been his typical joyful self. Only recently had he started acting more like himself after weeks of depression. Naruto had asked a lot of questions and talked to all of his teachers. Naruto's teachers supported him by listening to him and offering advice in what little ways they could. Even though he didn't like his circumstances, he also knew that it was his duty to his people, and it helped somewhat to know that his mother wanted this for him. Naruto wished the girl wasn't one of those incredibly conceited nobles he had grown to despise compared to most girls his age. This Hinata girl would be more relatable to him because she is from a ninja clan. Although Naruto loved his family and his teachers, he felt as though he was missing out on something because he didn't have any friends his own age. Most children his age wouldn't even look him in the eyes because of who he was. Children in the palace were either Guardian Corps Academy students or servants, and they would hardly speak to him unless he spoke to them. Naruto was aware that they were intimidated by the fact that he was an Uzumaki, not because they were being cruel. Naruto had given up trying to make friends his own age after multiple failed attempts. Perhaps he would be more successful with Hinata. After all, he might as well try to be friends with her if they were going to get married someday. Wearing a royal, dark blue kimono with multiple elaborate designs, Naruto sat to his grandfather's left. Although Naruto detested wearing all of this formal attire, he knew he had no other option. His uncle was standing beside his grandfather, who was seated on the Uzumaki throne in the center. Both men were dressed in kimonos that resembled Naruto's. Hearing his grandfather order a servant to let the group from the Leaf Village in made Naruto sit up straighter. It was time to meet the person he would share his future with. Naruto watched as a number of individuals were led into the throne room. According to appearances, 3 of the men were defiantly high-ranking ninja. The black hair of one of them was tied in a pineapple shape. His appearance did not deceive Naruto. He was paying great attention to everyone and everything in the room. He had a scar on his face and a slack appearance. Naruto thought the second man's sunglasses were pretty cool, and he had black hair and a coat that covered the lower portion of his face. Naruto could tell that this man knew how to remain composed under pressure because of his extremely stoic appearance. Naruto and probably everyone else in the room could still smell the tobacco odor emanating from the third man, who had black hair and a beard. Regardless of how hard he tried to hide it, Naruto knew this man must be quite strong because he was wearing a sash that he recognized as being worn by the Fire Daimyo's elite guardians. 2 much older-looking individuals, a man and a woman, were seated to their left. They were both dressed in pricey kimonos that resembled those worn by the dignitaries who frequently visit Whirlpool. They both exuded a sense of haughtiness, as if they were extremely significant individuals or something. Naruto gave them very little attention. There was a larger group of people to the far right, and they were all dressed in white robes that gave them a royal appearance. The Byakugan of the Hyuga clan, they all had long black hair and eyes without pupils. The 5 individuals in the center were flanked by 4 men who were providing protection. The only man with mostly white hair was a much older man in the middle. An attitude of "I'm better than anyone" was also a part of him. Beside him stood a stern-looking man who, if Naruto recalled correctly, was Hiashi Hyuga, the leader of the Hyuga clan. Hiashi's wife, Hana Hyuga, was standing beside him. Her Byakugan had a more lavender tint than the other Hyuga's typically colorless ones, and Hana's long, silky dark blue hair made her an extremely attractive woman. She was smiling affectionately at Naruto, and he could tell that she genuinely meant it. Hana was holding Hanabi Hyuga, the younger of the 2 Hyuga heirs, a very adorable little girl who appeared to be around 2 years old. Naruto's attention was drawn to the last person in the group. She wore the same white robes as the other Hyuga and was roughly his age. She shared her mother's dark blue, short hair and Byakugan eyes with the same lavender tint. Naruto could see the faint flush on her cheeks and understood the anxious expression on her face. Naruto felt a strange heat on his face and thought, "She's very pretty." When Naruto turned to face the person he would eventually call his wife, she turned to face him and their eyes locked. When Hinata's family entered the throne room, she struggled to remain composed. She dared not look up, so she kept her eyes as down as she could. Hinata didn't find the courage to look up until they were facing the Uzumaki family. When she did, she saw the most brilliant blue eyes she had ever seen, which were deeper than the ocean. The boy's golden blonde hair was as brilliant as the sun itself. Hinata also observed that his cheeks had adorable whisker-like patterns. Hinata was unable to control the intense flush that was currently on her face. Hinata thought, "He's cute," as she turned her head away, oblivious to Naruto's faint flush. After giving each Leaf member a quick glance, Genryusai said, "Welcome all of you to Whirlpool. I hope your trip was a pleasant one. We thank you for your hospitality. Daimyo-sama, our trip was indeed a pleasant one," said Hiashi as he took the stage. Genryusai looked at the other Leaf villagers and remarked, "Great, I'm glad the Hyuga clan accepted my invitation, but I see there are others I did not expect as well." Homura Mitokado moved beside Hiashi and spoke before he could say anything more. "We are here to represent the council in this meeting. It is after all of great importance to the entire village." "Troublesome," Shikaku Nara said as he moved forward. He glared at the village elders and said, "We are here to represent the Hokage in this meeting, and to make sure that some people don't cause an incident between our village and Whirlpool." Asuma Sarutobi was the last to come forward. "My name is Asuma Sarutobi, and I'm here to represent both the Hokage and the Fire Lord," Asuma said, bowing to the Daimyo. "Very well, I believe we will have no problem accommodating extra guests." Genryusai then turned to face the girl who would become Whirlpool's queen. "Perhaps this won't turn out too badly after all," Genryusai thought as he saw Hinata blushing and casting anxious glances at Naruto. In his authoritative, regal voice, Genryusai commanded, "Hinata Hyuga, daughter of Hiashi and Hana Hyuga and heiress of the Hyuga clan, come forward." Hinata resisted the impulse to eat. With trepidation, she got to her feet and moved forward until she was just a few feet away from the Uzumaki clan. She waited for the daimyo to continue after bowing to him as she had practiced. "Naruto Uzumaki, son of Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki, crowned prince of Whirlpool, come forward." Like a true Uzumaki, Naruto followed instructions without displaying his true level of anxiety. When Naruto found himself facing Hinata, he halted. His azure eyes gazed straight into her lavender eyes, which lacked pupils. They looked into each other's eyes, the eyes of their future spouses, and even though it was only a few seconds, it felt like an eternity to them both. Although Hinata was aware that she had to introduce herself first, she found it difficult to look away from the intense, piercing blue gaze that seemed to be staring right into her soul. But she worked very hard at it, and she introduced herself, bowing to her future husband. "My name is Hinata Hyuga. It is an honor to meet you." Naruto did the same, following her example. "My name is Naruto Uzumaki. It is an honor to meet you as well." Some of the people in the room smiled when the two children straightened up, looking somewhat embarrassed. "Excellent, Naruto. Why don't you show Hinata around the palace? It will give you both time to get to know each other without adults getting in the way. I have things to discuss with our guest that neither of you need to be here for," replied Genri Usai. It was unnecessary to reiterate Naruto's dislike of these dull meetings. Naruto reached out and said, "Lady Hinata, please allow me to escort you around the palace," as he had been taught to do. With a pretty flush, Hinata said, "Thank you Naruto-sama," taking his arm and allowing him to guide her out of the throne room. Genri Usai turned to face the other Leaf Ninja after Naruto and Hinata had left the room. Although he didn't like having more people in the group, he would accept it. Kaharu Utatane questioned, "Are you sure they should be left alone, Daimyo-sama? I promise that they are completely safe within the People's Palace. In addition, since they are still children, adults shouldn't interfere with their ability to get to know one another. But this is a very important meeting, that you didn't receive an invitation. This was to be a private matter between the Uzumaki and the Hyuga clans," Genri Usai interrupted. "You are aware that this union is more important than that the outcome of the marriage between those children is of interest to the whole Leaf Village. All we want to do is help them get along as much as possible. I'm confident they don't need any of us to get along. Besides, they have plenty of time to get to know each other." In his typical monotone, Shibi Aburame stated, "While that may be true, Daimyo-sama, it would be illogical to ignore the importance that their first meeting has in their future relationship. It is more crucial that they are free to be who they are, which we all put undue pressure on them to do." The other Leaf Ninja reluctantly agreed, saying, "If that's all for now, I'm sure you're all still tired from your trip. Let's meet at dinner after all of you have had time to rest. Their relationship will take time to build, so we should make things as easy as possible for the kids to grow closer on their own. If you want to explore the palace, samurai escorts will be waiting outside your rooms. However, please be advised that any and all chakra use can be detected, including your buds." Aburame-san. As everyone was leaving the throne room, one of the Hyuga remained behind. "Please stay with your escorts at all times when you leave your rooms. We don't want any incidents," Genri Usai said, making sure everyone understood that it wasn't a request. "I would like a private word with you if I could, Uzumaki-sama," the Hyuga elder said, eager to end the meeting because Genri Usai knew the man would request it. "All right, tell me about Hyuga-san if you want," Genri Usai inquired courteously. "Since the Hyuga clan is fiercely protective of our lineage, I would like to talk to you regarding the arrangement that was made between you and Hiashi. Your request to have Hinata's Byakugan unsealed without the Hyuga Council's approval was granted by Hiashi as a clan head of a ninja clan with your own bloodline. You understand that we would like to find a way to keep your clan's members in slavery." Kenshin's voice cut in an irate manner. The elder gave Kenshin a fierce look, but he knew better than to respond because Kenshin was correct. "That is not negotiable. As I informed Hiashi, I've examined your cagebird seal, and it's a monstrous thing. You alter the seal that my aunt Mito created for the Hyuga. It safeguarded your lineage without having the power to inflict harm on its bearer. Remember Hyuga-san, the world's greatest seal master. Do you really think I haven't already figured out how to safely take that seal off of you?" As the Hyuga elder went pale, the Uzumaki grinned and said, "Oh, yes, I already have. I've already discussed it with Hana and Hiashi. They both think that trying to have the Hyuga branch house unsealed right now would result in too much bloodshed. There is a chance, though, and I don't care what the Hyuga do to one another. In my opinion, Hinata is just as good as an Uzumaki, and the Uzumaki take care of their own," Genri Usai said, his eyes narrowing and his voice hardening as that clearly. The elder gritted his teeth and said, "Crystal," before hurriedly leaving the room. "How likely is it that they will overlook this?" Kenshin inquired. "Probably not. They're too obstinate to let it go so readily. We'll need to monitor the situation. If they make a foolish attempt, they'll discover why you should never enrage the Uzumaki." Naruto paused and turned to face Hinata as he led her through one of the palace's many halls shortly after leaving the throne room. "So, what would you like to see first?" Uncertain of her preferences, he inquired. Anything you like will be fine, Naruto-sama, Hinata said after twitching her finger. Oh, I don't really care about that stuff, so you really don't need to use the entire Sama thing. In addition, I believe that we could become friends. Naruto grinned and scratched the back of his head as he spoke. Hinata reddened. Oh, alright. Naruto-kun? Naruto nodded and grinned. So, Hinata, what activities do you enjoy doing in your hometown? Well, I like to spend time in the garden with my sister or learning to cook with my mother when I'm not studying or training. I also like to read. When Naruto said, in that case let's go to one of the palace's gardens, Hinata was thrilled. Assuming he was referring to the Garden of Life, Naruto led her to a large garden filled with numerous lovely flowers, which was lovely but not what she had anticipated, so she asked Naruto. Is the Garden of Life here? Oh, you are aware of that? No, this is merely a typical garden of ours. Even I haven't visited the Garden of Life. To be honest, the remains of our clan's founder are kept there, making it a very significant place for my clan. However, my grandfather promised to take me there shortly. Both of them blushed intensely when he said, I'm sorry, but I can't take you there. Well, not until we're actually married. Naruto-kun, what sort of training do you do? After they sat down on one of the many stone benches in the garden, Hinata inquired. I do all kinds of training. I have 9 different teachers that help me study all sort of things. 9 educators? I only train with my parents, but once we get back to the village, I'll start the academy. Hinata saw that Naruto scowled when she brought up the Leaf Village, so she said, is something wrong, Naruto-kun? I'm sorry, Hinata, but I don't have a good opinion of the Leaf Village. Why? Although my mother didn't tell me much, I am aware that you used to reside there. Could you tell me? I'd like to learn more about you. He sighed and said, okay, since we're going to be friends and more than that later on, I guess you have a right to know everything. And Naruto did tell Hinata everything, about his parents' deaths, about his treatment in the orphanage, and, most importantly, about the fox being sealed inside of him. By the end of his story, Hinata was crying, and Naruto assumed that she was crying because she was afraid of him or because she thought he was some sort of freak. He couldn't help but feel hurt. He thought he would finally have a friend. Imagine his surprise when he felt Hinata's arms encircle him and give him a tight hug, and his own eyes watering as he gave her a tight embrace. I'm sorry, Naruto-kun, you didn't deserve to be treated that way by the people in my village. You never requested to be a demon's jailer. You don't feel scared? A bewildered Naruto inquired. Your mother was still my mother's best friend, and she was also a Jinchuriki. According to what my mother told me, that doesn't concern me since I don't have any friends back home. I still want to be your friend. The clan doesn't have many children my age. It's also difficult for me to approach other children because I'm not permitted to leave the compound without an escort. Yes, I understand what you're saying. I also have no friends my own age. Well, we have one another now, don't we? The same way our mothers had each other. With a broad smile, Naruto said, yeah, I guess we do. One of the servants arrived after Naruto and Hinata had spent some more time talking and learning what each other liked and didn't like in order to inform them that they needed to get ready for dinner. Naruto escorted Hinata to the room where she shared with her parents and sister, and then he left to get ready with a big smile on his face. The dinner went surprisingly well, with Naruto and Hinata sitting next to each other and discussing a variety of small topics, such as what food they liked and didn't, while the adults discussed politics and money. Everyone, especially Hinata's parents and Naruto's family, was relieved to see how well they seemed to be getting along. The next day was Naruto's birthday and the entire palace was a buzz of activity. After breakfast, Hinata joined Naruto in his taijutsu training with Sano. Naruto soon learned that the Hyuga were feared for a reason. The gentle fist wasn't very gentle at all, and it hurt. After training, the Leaf Ninja and the Uzumaki left the palace to go to a Kenjutsu tournament that was being held in Naruto's honor. The members of the Leaf Village were very impressed with some of the skilled samurai that participated in the tournament, especially when they were told that none of the officers of the Guardian Corps were allowed to participate. It just showed that Whirlpool was a dangerous enemy to have. After that, Aidendril had a parade that was attended by thousands of people and was enjoyed by everyone. After the parade, the group returned to the palace, where they had an early dinner. After dinner, the Uzumaki and the Leaf Ninja were waiting for Hana and Hinata to finish getting ready so they could go to the city and enjoy the rest of the festival-like attractions. Why are they taking so long? An impatient Naruto remarked. One of his favorite things to do on his birthday was to walk around the city at night, along with watching the fireworks. Naruto was dressed in a dark blue formal kimono, which was a little more relaxed than the one he had worn the day before and made it possible for the wearer to feel more at ease while moving about. Waiting for women only gets worse as they get older, so you'd better get used to it. Women can be such a pain. Asuma and Shibi were both wearing gray kimonos that were provided by the Uzumaki clan, but Shibi's was modified to cover the lower portion of his face. He was still wearing his sunglasses, Shikaku said. Well, what are you saying? Shikaku was about to respond when a feeling of dread overcame him, asked Naruto. Yes, Shikaku-san, please explain. Everyone turned to see Hana, who was wearing a lovely lavender kimono, holding Hanabi, who was wearing a white and red kimono that made her look very adorable. I'm sure your wife would like to hear what you have to say, she said. Shikaku, who was quite anxious, replied, well, nothing. I meant absolutely nothing. The statement, women are the least troublesome of anything at all, really, caused a few group members to laugh, and Asuma coughed in a way that sounded a lot like, whipped. Naruto was stunned and perplexed, but the person who had just entered the room captured his attention. Naruto's face heated up as he saw Hinata in the ember silk kimono that had been given to her on her birthday. She looked more like a princess than many of the real princesses he had encountered. Well, okay, Naruto-kun, do I look okay? With a slight flush on her face, she asked shyly. Naruto said, you look very pretty, Hinata-hime, as his blush deepened. A tomato would have been envious of Hinata's flaming face, H-hime. With a smile that split her face, Naruto said, yes, I'm going to call you Hinata-hime from now on. Is that okay? I would like that, Naruto-kun. The remainder of the evening was a great success for the group. The children enjoyed the games and the food, and Hinata noticed how much the people of Whirlpool loved Naruto. Several times, people would approach them as they were walking around and say hello or introduce themselves. Hinata was treated well in the Leaf Village, but never to this degree. It was as if Naruto was a celebrity here. Naruto, on the other hand, didn't seem to notice much, as he was always courteous and happy to talk to everyone, and he never acted as though he was too important to talk to commoners, such as some of her clan. It didn't hurt that Naruto thought Hinata was very pretty, but he had to admit that he had been nervous about meeting her, not knowing what to expect. She is a little shy at times, but she is very kind, smart, and will be a strong ninja when she is older. He was glad that Hinata is a very down-to-earth girl and not snobbish at all. Most importantly, though, was that he finally had a friend his own age, with whom he could discuss child-related matters as well as clan-related matters. The Hyuga clan, along with the rest of the guests, stayed for 2 weeks in Whirlpool. In that time Naruto spent most of his time with Hinata. They trained together with most of Naruto's teachers. Naruto was adamant that Hinata did not meet Shigure for her own safety. Hiei said he wasn't a babysitter, so he wasn't there with Kurama, but Hinata met all of Naruto's other teachers. Hinata was not allowed to go with Naruto to his Kenjutsu training because she was not an Uzumaki yet. The Uzumaki and Hinata's parents considered the visit a complete success. The kids got along great and quickly became friends. As had been agreed, Hinata will visit every summer until she became a genin, which will be in 5 years. At that point Naruto will have a choice to become a leaf genin and spend more time with Hinata, or wait until he and Hinata reach their 16th birthday, at which point they will be allowed to get married. Both the Uzumaki and Hinata's parents hope to wait longer than that. It is the earliest that the wedding can happen, but that didn't mean that they wanted the kids married so soon. The time had come for Hinata to bid Naruto farewell. The other leaf ninja had already boarded the ship, and Hana and Hiashi were waiting. I'm happy, Hinata-hime, and I met. Naruto said, I'll make sure to write to you as much as I can. For the first time in her life, Hinata found herself laughing and playing with Naruto. Sure, she played with Hanabi, but it was different because she was so little. I'm glad to have met you too, Naruto-kun. I promise to write as well. Hinata thoroughly enjoyed spending time with Naruto, who was always so confident about everything and had a contagious positive attitude. I guess I will see you next summer. Have fun in the academy, okay, Hinata-hime? Yes, I will. Additionally, I'll be much stronger the following year. Naruto gave Hinata a hug and said, goodbye, Hime, I can't wait. After they said their goodbyes, Hinata and her family boarded the ship. Naruto was sad to see her go, but he would see Hinata again. Goodbye, Naruto-kun. Hinata returned to embrace, struggling to contain her tears, having just made her first friend and not seeing him for a full year. Don't be alarmed, Naruto-kun. Before you know it, Hinata-chan will be back, Genryusai remarked. I know, grandfather, but I will still miss her. Oh, I don't know if you'll have time to miss her too much. What are you saying? Naruto inquired. Your uncle and I have decided to increase your level of training, both for your physical, academic, and political training, so plan to be very busy over the next few months. It sounded like a challenge to Naruto, who never backs down from a challenge, and he smiled. Hinata had a very exciting day. Hinata had been escorted by her parents on this first day of the academy. As they drove their children to school, she had observed a number of other parents. Though she was anxious, Hinata was excited to learn and, ideally, make friends. Hinata saw some familiar faces as soon as she entered the room to which she had been assigned. There were the descendants of the clans of Nara, Akamichi, Aburame, and Inuzuka. Hinata saw that the second son of the head of the Uchiha clan was also present, along with a number of children from non-clan families, including a girl with pink hair who was conversing with the heiress of the Yamanaka clan. Hinata moved to the rear of the class and sat down beside Shino, the Aburame heir. Though he was a quiet boy, Hinata had met him a few times and found him to be decent enough. After a few minutes, Chuchunin entered the room and urged everyone to stop talking. "Alright everyone, settle down. My name is Aruka Yumino. This is Mizuki. We will be your instructors for your time in the academy." Aruka-sensei went over a number of the academy's regulations and his expectations for them going forward. "Okay then, now why don't we get to know each other? I will call each of your names and I would like each of you to stand up and introduce yourselves. Let's start with." Hinata observed as the kids introduced themselves and Aruka-sensei called out a number of names. They would say their name and, if they were from a clan, that is well nothing particularly exciting. It was Hinata's turn at last. "Next is, Hinata Hyuga. Please introduce yourself." As she stood up, Hinata tried not to show her nervousness, but she did notice that her name caused a lot of whispering among the students, particularly among the kids from ninja clans. After saying, "My name is Hinata Hyuga of the Hyuga clan, nice to meet all of you," Hinata then bowed slightly to the class and sat down. She was unaware that all of the children from the village's main clans, as well as some of the children who were related to civilian council members, had told their kids to make an effort to make friends with her. Many of the children were interested in Hinata because their parents didn't explain to them why she was so significant. Everyone was released from the classroom for a break after they had all had a chance to introduce themselves. When Hinata arrived at the play area, keep in mind that they are only 7 years old, she discovered that some of the children were whispering and pointing, which unnerved her. Hinata turned and saw the Inuzuka heir standing behind her. "You shouldn't let them get to you, ya know. They've just heard a lot about you. We all have actually." "Why you have?" a perplexed Hinata inquired. Given how infrequently she left the Hyuga compound, how could they have heard so much about her? Hinata and Kiba turned to see that Shino Aburame was speaking when they heard a monotone voice next to them say, "Yes, we have." Shino was observing some ants while standing beneath the tree's shade. Hinata inquired, "What did you hear?" Kiba gave a shrug. "Only that you are somehow important to the village, something about your clan having an important alliance with some other big shot clan. My mom told me not to do anything that would make your clan angry at my clan, not that I planned on doing something like that anyway. My father also spoke of an important political alliance between the Hyuga and another clan that was of great importance to the Leaf Village. He said it would be illogical for me to do anything that would cause a conflict between our clan and the Hyuga," Shino said with a typical voice. "I see. Thank you both for telling me." Hinata played with Kiba and Shino for the remainder of the day. Before they had lunch together, they made no attempt to inquire about her arranged marriage, and she kept it a secret from them while children continued to point. Hinata's first day at the academy went quite well. For the remainder of the day she bid Shino and Kiba farewell at the end of class and proceeded to meet her parents. Her mother inquired, "How was your first day, honey?" Hinata grinned, "I liked it very much. I met several new people too. I think I'm going to enjoy coming here very much." "Well, we are happy to hear it. Come on Hinata, let's go home. You can tell us all about it." "Okay, I also want to write a letter to Naruto-kun and tell him all about it. I'm sure he would love that." The Hyuga family was unaware that another of Hinata's classmates was observing them as they departed. "So that's the girl that father mentioned. I don't see what's so special about her. I guess I'll have to keep an eye on her. Are you ready to go, Sasuke? If we're late, mother will be upset." "Yes brother, let's go." Naruto sat in front of his grandfather and uncle a few days after the Leaf Village guests had departed for their homes. Before he actually began, they were going to talk to him about his new training. Naruto was thrilled and eager for the novel and thrilling training. "Naruto, after speaking with your uncle, we both have decided that you are ready to begin your training with a real Uzumaki blade." Naruto's expression brightened with joy and anticipation. Naruto had been awaiting authorization to begin training with a real katana for a while, but his uncle had maintained that he wasn't prepared. Naruto was eager to begin now that his uncle thought he was ready. "So you're finally going to give me a katana? That's so cool. I can't wait to get started." "Naruto, calm down now. the first thing you need to know is that as an Uzumaki you don't just get a blade handed to you. The hidden Mitsurugi requires a special blade to be forged in order to be able to handle the stress that our style places on the sword we use, Kenshin replied with a firm tone. So, I have to make a sword for myself. Cool. It's not that simple, Naruto. It will take months or even years to be able to forge a sword good enough to be used with the hidden Mitsurugi. In the meantime we will continue to use practice swords, only these will be made of steel so that you can get used to the feel of a real blade in your hands. Naruto was a little irritated to hear from his uncle that they would still be using practice swords, but he quickly moved on. Before you start your training, your uncle and I believe it's time we take you to see the Garden of Life. Every Uzumaki is allowed to see the grave of our clan's founder and lay eyes on the great Arashi before they begin their advanced level of training in the hidden Mitsurugi. Naruto was thrilled by that. Awesome. I've wanted to go there forever. So when can we go, grandfather? We will go there now, there is no reason to wait any longer. Cool, let's go, a cheery Naruto exclaimed as he ran out the door. Kenshin questioned, he doesn't know where the garden is, does he? Genryusai let out a sigh, no, I don't think he does. Well, might as well go get him before he gets lost again. Good idea. At the heart of the People's Palace was the Garden of Life. Only a member of the Uzumaki clan was allowed entry to the location. The garden's sole entrance was reached by a single corridor. Members of the Guardian Corps were always on guard in that corridor. Hundreds of seals made by the Uzumaki clan were layered over the garden. When it was finished there were seals to protect the stones and rare plants, flowers, and artifacts, as well as seals for climate control and self-cleaning. When Naruto first stepped into the garden, he was unable to speak. The Garden of Life was arranged in a perfect circle and had a clear glass roof dome that allowed the many lush, lovely plants and trees that called it home to receive plenty of natural light. Plants of every kind, color, and size were scattered throughout the garden, in beds along the walls. Naruto identified a number of flower species that he had never seen or heard of, including tulips, orchids, roses, and many others. There were walkways along the flower beds, made of a perfect bright white stone that looked like marble. The walkways wound around the entire room, allowing access to every area without stepping on the immaculately maintained grass or plants. Beyond the flowers were a few exotic trees, short stone walls covered in vines, and more carefully tended plants that enhanced the scenery. Naruto saw that many of those plants were medicinal, and if he recalled correctly, some of them were extremely rare. The garden was undoubtedly a serene and beautiful place. Naruto was escorted to the middle of the expansive garden. A large, opulent-looking pond with crystal-clear water and gorgeous koi fish of various sizes and colors was situated in the middle of the garden, which had a section of lawn that swept around in a circle toward the center. A bridge of the same immaculate white marble that comprised the garden's numerous walkways led to a small island in the middle of the large pond. Naruto's attention was drawn to two things on the island. One of them was a white tree that appeared to be very old and resembled a sakura tree, but Naruto would not have expected the flowers to be pink. This tree had stunning blood-red flowers that were a sight to behold. Naruto knew that the tomb of the Uzumaki clan's founder was located in the middle of the island. It was a plain white marble tomb with a perfect rectangular shape. It was only 3 feet high and low enough for Naruto to see it easily. On all 4 sides of the tomb were elaborate carvings of historical scenes. The carving that showed how the enormous whirlpools that gave their nation its name were formed caught Naruto's attention the most. Here lies the founder of our clan, one of the original members of the Roku Kyoshu and student of the Sage of Six Paths. This is the tomb of Takeshi Uzumaki, Lord of Storms, wielder of the legendary sword, Arashi. Naruto's eyes darted to the top of the tomb where his grandfather had told him the fabled blade lay as soon as he mentioned it. The once wonderful blade rested atop its master's tomb, exactly as Naruto had been told. 3 pieces of the Arashi had been broken. Naruto examined the first component, which was the blade's hilt. Naruto had anticipated it to appear aged and worn, but the handle was wrapped in a dark ocean blue silk that was nearly brand new. According to Naruto's uncle, the material was ember silk that had been sealed in layers to prevent stains and damage. It still didn't appear to have been used. The red circle that served as the Tsuba hand guard was fashioned after the Uzumaki crest. Naruto's breath was taken away by the blade itself. The blade, which was about 28 inches long and of average length, was broken in 2 near the middle. However, Naruto didn't really notice that the sword's blade caught Naruto's eye because it didn't appear to be composed of any metal at all. Naruto could tell that the blade was semi-transparent because it had a color similar to clear blue water, almost as if it were made of glass or water. Just consider the color of the Brotherhood sword in Final Fantasy X. Naruto's hand moved to touch the sword as if it were attracted to it on its own. Be careful, Naruto, the blade is. Naruto whimpered as he sucked on his bleeding finger, saying, "Ouch. It's still sharp." Genryusai let out a sigh. "I tried to tell you, Naruto, the blade may be hundreds of years old, but it has never grown dull because of the many seals placed on it when Takeshi forged it." Naruto's question was, "What's it made of?" Genryusai opened his mouth to respond, but Kenshin interrupted. His uncle exclaimed, "Father, look at the Arashi," with more passion than Naruto had ever heard him express. Uzumaki naturally glanced at the sword to see what was causing his excitement. Naruto and his grandfather noticed that the sword's blade had started to glow when they looked at it. At first it was very dim, but it soon became brighter and brighter. The ends of the broken blade appeared to briefly melt and come into contact with one another. When it was finished, the Arashi was whole again, and the glowing gradually stopped. Kenshin exclaimed, "By Kami, I don't believe my eyes." She was in shock. In the time before the Great Darkness, the true heir of Whirlpool shall rise, and only then will the sword that was broken be remade, Genryusai said, sounding almost hypnotized. "But that's impossible. You can't actually belly." Genryusai pointed to the Arashi and remarked, "You witnessed this firsthand, Kenshin." Naruto touched the sword before this occurred. As Naruto asked in confusion, "What are both of you talking about? What's going on?" Genryusai's gaze was fixed on his grandsons. When Takeshi Uzumaki was on his deathbed, he spoke of a child of prophecy. The one that would save the world from a great darkness. His last words before he died were the words I spoke from that time. Till this day, every heir of the Uzumaki clan has been brought here before they start their advanced training, and after they have completed said training, I never imagined that I would live to see the day that the Arashi would accept another as its master, far less that it would be my own grandson. Naruto questioned, "What does this all mean, exactly?" "It means that your training is going to be even more intense than we originally planned. It appears that you will be important not only to Whirlpool but to the entire world in the future. I hope you're ready for it, Naruto." Naruto smiled. "Believe it." A few days later, the private training ground of Uzumaki echoed with the sound of steel on steel. Naruto gripped Arashi tightly with both hands while wearing a frustrated expression. In contrast to his uncle, Naruto had numerous minor wounds and bruises, some of which were already getting better because of the Uzumaki bloodline. "Naruto, don't just react to my attacks, you have to pay attention to my movements. The hidden Mitsurugi style relies on our ability to read our opponent's attacks. Pay attention to my stance. Look closely to how I distribute my weight. Every small detail of your opponent's posture can be used to predict what he or she is going to do next. Every movement, no matter how small, can be what determines whether your fight ends in victory and defeat." With a, "Yes, uncle, I will try harder," Naruto replied. "Let's take a short break for now. We can continue after you have rested a little." "Okay. Father said you received a letter from Hinata. Did you write her back?" "Yes. She started the academy and is really happy. She has already made some new friends and is enjoying spending time with kid her own age. I wrote back and told her about the Arashi." "I see. I'm glad to see that you are getting along with each other. Once we are finished with today's training, Father wants to speak to us." "Is there something wrong?" Naruto inquired. "I don't know. We will have to see what he wishes to speak to us about." Naruto kept up his new training in Kenjutsu now that he had a real Uzumaki blade. His uncle was more stern with him. Naruto was a natural for the hidden Mitsurugi. Much like Kenshin was when he was younger, Naruto would absorb all of the information that was given to him and quickly learn from his mistakes. Kenshin was certain that Naruto would eventually be wearing the master's coat for Kenjutsu if he kept learning at this rate and with the Arashi's current level of power. Genryusai wanted to talk to Naruto and Kenshin about a business, so they met with him after training was over. The tone Genryusai used was one of "No, none. Thank you both for coming. I have news that need to be discussed between the three of us." "Yes, Father," Kenshin replied. Naruto acknowledged with a nod. 4 days ago, there an incident involving a ship in one of our transport companies." Kenshin scowled. He inquired, "What kind of incident?" "As our ship was traveling towards its destination in the southern continent, it was intercepted by a military ship belonging to the hidden mist village. The mist ninja claimed that they were patrolling for smugglers and demanded to be allowed to search the ship." "That's ridiculous. Whirlpool would never participate in such a dishonorable act," replied Kenshin. "Something that our captain made sure to tell them. He also told them the fact that even though the ship was near the land of water, they were in international waters and Mist Village had no authority to search our vessel." Naruto, eager to know the result, inquired, "So what happened?" "Unfortunately, the incident escalated because neither side would back down. The end result was an altercation between the Mist Ninja and our samurai. Our escorts cut down several Mist Ninja before they retreated back to their ship. Unfortunately, they answered with a full military strike against our ship. Our vessel was able to escape, but with severe damage. Nearly all the cargo of expensive silks, spices, herbs, and other things trading goods was lost. We also suffered several casualties to the ship's crew. I would never have believed that the fourth Mizukage would be foolish enough to start conflict with us after what happened to the first. He claims that it was not his intention to start a conflict, but he is not admitting blame for the altercation. Neither he nor the daimyo is willing to pay for the damages either. Naruto was enraged. He was fiercely protective of the Whirlpool populace. We are not going to just let this go, are we? They hurt some of our people. He exclaimed. They had shown him nothing but love and respect, and they had embraced him. Naruto's anger is directed at anyone who harms his people. No, we certainly cannot let this insult go unanswered. If we did, it would jeopardize the safety of all our ships. If other nations thought they could get away with something like this, replied Genryusai. Not to mention that we would lose many of our transportation contracts if companies didn't think our ships can get their goods to their destinations safely, stated Kenshin. Naruto questioned, so what are we going to do about it? Genryusai grinned. The water daimyo and the Mizukage need reminding of why our clan is not to be trifled with. I have decided that both of you will go pay a visit to water country and be the ones to remind the Mizukage and water daimyo. Are you sure, father? Naruto is very young and things might get complicated. I don't want him to be hurt if any unusual altercations come up, replied Kenshin. His uncle appeared disturbed, and Naruto could tell there was more to it. Although Naruto wasn't sure if he was prepared to serve as a diplomatic envoy, he would try his hardest if his grandfather asked him to. Your worries are acknowledged, and I give you the go-ahead to take any necessary action to ensure Naruto's safety. I believe this will be the ideal chance for him to learn what is expected of him once he becomes our country's leader. As you wish, father, Kenshin clarified. I have ordered a ship to be prepared, so get ready to leave tomorrow morning. You will be escorted by a single samurai squad. They will be required to always keep an eye on Naruto and to defend him with lethal force if needed. Both Naruto and Kenshin nodded before heading out to prepare for their journey. Naruto stood on the royal ship of the Uzumaki clan, gazing out at the boundless ocean. Today, they would reach the shores of water country, and he and his uncle Kenshin were going to visit the water daimyo and the Mizukage. Although this was supposed to be a diplomatic visit, for some reason, Naruto felt uneasy. His uncle had been acting strangely, as if he expected something to go wrong on this trip, and he had been hovering over Naruto ever since his grandfather had told them about it in training. Naruto couldn't figure out why. Naruto turned as he heard heavy footsteps on the wooden floor and the clanking of armor, and he saw Captain Sagara approaching him. We'll be at water country in less than an hour, Naruto-sama, to give you an update on the trip's plans. Your uncle has asked you to come to his chamber. I'll take you there. I know where my uncle's cabin is, Captain. I'm sure you have more important things to do. Captain Sagara replied, your safety is the most important thing, my prince. You think our own ship will attack me? One must always expect the unexpected, and exercise constant vigilance. All right, let's go, Naruto sighed. Naruto turned to the captain as they navigated the big ship and he asked, do you know why my uncle has been acting so grumpy lately? The question caused the captain to look uneasy. I'm not sure what you mean by Naruto-sama, he said. Recently, Kenshin-sama has not been in a foul mood. Yes, he has, and I can attest to it with my bruises in practice. He has been extremely aggressive. He is not his typical grumpy self. That isn't typical of him. He's acting strangely because of this trip. I think his only concern is keeping you safe. We are traveling to a foreign country that Whirlpool has known to be an adversary for many years. It is not safe to be in water country. The nation is reportedly on the verge of civil war. Yes, I did hear that as well. According to my grandfather, every bloodline using clan in the nation has been subject to execution orders from the daimyo. How is he able to do that? For something so foolish, he ordered the deaths of so many of his own people. Furthermore, how could the rest of the nation think that bloodline ninja are to blame for all of their issues? It's blatantly false. People don't bother asking questions because they are constantly searching for someone to blame. The daimyo and Mizukage assigned them bloodline users to blame. Although it's wrong, that's the way people are. As they arrived at his uncle's room, Naruto said, I guess. He said goodbye to the captain and went inside. When Naruto entered the room, Kenshin was standing in front of a desk, studying a number of maps and scrolls. You're here, Naruto said. Excellent. I was reviewing our trip itinerary. All right, what's the strategy? Once we get there, we'll go straight to the capital to meet the daimyo. We'll remind him that trying to start a fight with our clan is stupid. So, you're essentially going to threaten him. Awesome.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.